And hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to another broadcast on YouTube, as well as I hope on Blog Talk. So let's see if we're going to be rolling with Blog Talk or not. Now the thing is this is the first time I ever used the software, so I can only assume that I am on the air there. It just says on the air. And looking at there's some people on hold. So let's see, how is it invite guests? I think I'm on the air, but I don't know. Someone's going to have to be able to tell me if they can hear me. Maybe what I'll do is I'll call Tank and see if we can figure this out. I'm sorry about this, but this is we're just trying to figure this out live. There is a problem. You're not connected. Please call in and let's continue. So why are we not connected? Hello.
What's up?
Hey. So just,
hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I don't know if I'm on Blog Talk from whether people can hear or not. I see that.
I don't know either. I was just talking. That's funny. Were you on just now?
I'm live. I'm broadcast. I'm talking to you on Telegram on my handheld. My computer is live on YouTube as normal, and I'm looking at the Blog Talk here, and it says host disconnected. So
yeah, I just got disconnected because technically I'm the host from this, so that could be why.
Okay. That's what it was.
But I can't hear you though. I should be able to hear you.
Then I don't think that I was on. So I think maybe we're gonna have to drop the blog talk right now, and then do a separate episode and see if we can do it later. Or we can keep it running, but it says it's going to disconnect me. It just tried to disconnect me. I had to press a button to keep me connected.
Well, I think it's disconnecting me right now because you just called me. So I'm hosting the show, so you just interrupted the show.
Okay. Well, maybe. But I'm logged onto the account too. So.
Right. But,
okay, should I get off? I can get off.
Well, no, but did you get the link to the email that I sent you?
Yeah, but that's good. But that's going to put me in to like as a viewer or listener.
No, there's 5. Those are 5 guests that brings you in. Then you can talk. We can talk. That's correct. I only said that on 5 people.
Okay.
Then I can talk to you. But if you go in as the host at the same time, I can't hear you.
Okay. Well, I won't be able to broadcast you. If I'm, well, I can try it. I can try that link. What I'll do is I'll just try the link, and we'll try it that way.
I can just come on. I can just come on for the other channel. I can come on to the other channel for now. We can figure that out later.
All right. Well,
information is too important. So just send me the link. I'll come on to YouTube. Whatever.
You already have it. It's there.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Okay. Hello. Let's start this all over. Hello, this. Tank is on his way to get on the call, so we'll talk about those things while he's revving up. So, here. Okay, the tank is on now. I cut the music. There we go. Well, that's a very clumsy start of a show. So, I don't know if I can do a I mean, I think I could do it on a separate device. If you're hosting, right? If you're on as the host and I'm on my handheld, that might work. Or yeah, that way, but I'd have to keep it on here. I don't know. I thought I might have to host both, but maybe not. Yeah, I was thinking is I was going to be hosting from this side, and you were going to basically call in, and we'd do it that way. But anyway, it's okay. We're set, and we'll figure it out on another broadcast. So let's go. So do you have an update?
Yeah. So let me just.
Your volume is low.
Huh.
Oh, that's me. I had your volume low. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I just let's make sure everybody gets back on because I got a bunch of people on Blog Talk, trying to follow, and obviously there was a couple things I didn't anticipate there. I didn't anticipate my line got crashed by a bunch of calls all at once, and kind of bumped me off Blog Talk. And because I'm not that efficient at it yet, we didn't. We just decided to jump back over here to YouTube for now so that we get the message out because there's some very important things to share today. So 1 second, I'm just updating people. And we'll fix that later. So that was my.
You said there's some very important things here today, and then nothing.
Oh, you didn't hear me just now? Okay.
No.
Oh, it's interesting. So maybe I am broadcasting on there at the same time because this has my call live on the internet.
Okay.
Well, great. I am obviously nailing this as a technical wizard here today. Really doing great. So yeah, we want to make sure everybody kind of gets back and everybody's on board and everything's going okay. But so I want to use this this platform, the Blog Talk Radio, because in that platform it should be ideally simpler, right? It is simpler. It's not the platform. It's my fault. So I apologize to people for that. I am notorious for having ideas and then at the last possible minute I kind of say let's go now and everybody around me kind of jumps on board. But the information was so important today that I thought it would be perfect timing. So that being said, I want to give you an update. So the update for today is really absolutely incredible. And not to tease people because I don't want to disappoint people. We have not yet cleared funding. We have not cleared the funding in our accounts yet. And I mean that on the our level. So, but here's what's amazing. What happened is that this entire situation, this entire challenge, we have been at odds with the military. And the reason why is because they have been paid by the Chinese elders for the past 4 years. So as far as this transition goes, they had kind of control of the information. And then what happens is the military is controlled, like anything, with having everything segmented off into compartments, right? So, the right arm doesn't know what the left arm is doing, and everybody has their own role. And for the most part, everyone believes that their role is the most important, and what they focus on is doing their job. So everybody has been battling against us because the Chinese faction of the Rothschilds, the Chinese elders, the alleged, mythical, benevolent, that are not benevolent, but who claim to be benevolent, and tried to convince everyone that they deserve to rule the world and try to get us all to buy into that by doing this global currency reset. They have controlled the military. In fact, they referred to the military as their slaves. And that's an exact quote. They said they are our slaves. So apparently, you got some pretty prominent figures there in the military, and they must have figured it out through enough information finally. And they have come over to our side. They finally realized that Kim is not the evil one. And this just happened last night. And as of this morning, we had transfers coming in, and somewhere in the banks, they were still being instructed not to clear our transfers. And I'm not sure how that's even possible, when the government is giving instructions and the military and everything else. But they were still being instructed not to clear our transfers. But as of now, it's not the president who's the problem because he's on our side. And for the first time, it's not the military because the Pentagon has been blocking everything, either through the secret space program or through the Pentagon itself or through their influence on the various agencies. And think about it, it's the military. The military controls everything, right? Because we're the industrial or militarized industrial complex. So we just took out the military leg of the military industrial complex. So this is a massive, massive breakthrough. So as of this morning, they have been working with us diligently, hand in hand with the Department of the Treasury, helping us clear transfers.
Hand in
and we
hand.
have
Hand in hand. Hand in hand. Oh, that's amazing. Oh. Well, fantastic. So now we don't know about the status of it hitting any particular account right now, but that they're now helping as opposed to being the hindrance. They're not an obstacle any longer.
Well, not only that, but they have look, if the government right now, so we talk about this saying, oh, the government has national control of the banks, right? Of Wells Fargo, let's say, right? Now, technically, they should. Now, clearly, nobody has control of the banks, right? The banks are the banks are like that really horribly spoiled kid that you see at the party, right? Who like runs up to the birthday party, even though it's not their birthday, and just grabs a big chunk of the cake and then runs over and throws it at somebody else, and hits their mother. And everybody hates this kid and wants the parent to just beat them, but they never do, right? That is the banks. They are that kid. Right? They do whatever the heck they want all the time. They've been doing this for constantly and repeatedly, nonstop. They've been doing this, right? So they've always been the problem because they think they're above the law. So what Kim did is she has completely deleted all of the Federal Reserve registration numbers. So they're not even legally registered to hold the U.S. dollars anymore at all. So they are powerless. That means the entire central banking system around the world is essentially powerless, right?
Right.
So now the actual Treasury, the Department of the Treasury for the United States, has authority to print its own money for the first time in our history that I know of, and they are working with us. And the Secretary of the Treasury, who, I'm not sure what he ever did at that job other than steal money for the Rothschilds, but he has been effectively removed. His two legs of his two top advisors, they have both been removed, and he is actually powerless in his position at this time. He's just more of a, they're phasing him out using various methods to discredit him right now, right? So they're taking him for who he is, and they're discrediting him through just common ways, like
I was thinking they made him sit with Maxine Waters for 4 hours. That would be enough to get him running.
You'd think, Maxine Waters is I just can't even imagine the crowd that voted her in. They were like, yeah, that's us. She represents us. That's a scary group wherever she's from.
Watts, California.
Oh, Watts. You know what? I know some people in Watts. Yeah, I guess she's got that edge to her, right? But she sure as hell doesn't represent Watts. Because if the people in Watts knew what she was doing, they would not like it. They would not like that. But anyways, so this has been the situation nonstop, right? So whoever controlled the money controlled them, controlled the military, right? So the Federal Reserve, this has always been controlled, a private entity controlled by the Rothschild families, which go by different versions of the different names, but it's all the same bloodline. And they're currently completely disabled. And I'm telling you, there's nobody out there on the alternative media who even knows that. They're not even talking about it. But I'm telling you, that is the most cutting, breaking, amazing news in the world. It is like the wicked witch is dead kind of news. Now, so they are powerless to do anything. So you don't anybody who they if you get a threat from the Rothschilds and somebody else who's calling you up to threaten biblical genocide, if you don't do what they say, stop, pump the brakes, reassess. They can't do anything. And that was true before because they weren't controlling the money. But now their most prominent weapon was the army, was the military rather. So the military has been their weapon. And to the military's credit, you know what? I know you guys are listening. I got reports from all over the place. I know that they are listening and paying attention. And here's what Kim did to really solidify this. I just want to share this with all the military guys who I know follow, okay? So that you know the kind of person that you have in this position fighting for you right now. Here's what she did. She committed half of the administrative fee. Now that's her money, by the way. That's the money she makes. So she took half of all her money and she committed it to the veterans charity that builds homes for families who have lost a spouse during active duty, and it helps returning veterans from the war, from different conflicts. Right. So she took her own money. That's her personal money, and she dedicated it to the veterans, and she submitted that to them to make sure they had that right away.
Woo!
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Amazing.
And hey, but also on another note, the Chinese elders, they did nothing. They did nothing. Nothing. They've done nothing. They contribute nothing. They offer nothing. Just an FYI. So good job, military. Way to man up and come over to the right side, because that changes everything. Because now, if push comes to shove and the banks, all their toughness is gone. So Eric Prince and Blackwater and all of the mercenaries working there, all of you guys, I know you listen to me. I know this. I know you. I know you guys have followed me for years. Listen, you're never going to get paid by Eric Prince. You're never going to get paid by Blackwater. You've been working on favors out of your own money from your own pocket. Now,
Yeah, isn't that strange? Isn't that strange that they're doing all that? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll get you your money. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, the thing is, it's a combination of things. One, they promise them, look, you're going to be the Prince Crown Sheik of Kentucky or something like that, right? You're going to be so important, right? They gas them with that stuff. Then they say, look, we're going to give you all this dinar and all this zim, and it's going to revalue, and you're going to be crazy rich. No, you're not. That's never going to happen. The GCR is not going to happen. If you haven't seen it, go to Dan Lutz YouTube channel. He's got a little 13-minute video out there, and I break it down exactly what their plan was for you. Their plan was not to make you rich. You don't enslave a race of people for thousands of years, then turn around and have it change your heart and say, hey, you know what we should do? Let's make them all rich. That just doesn't happen. Their plan has been a genocidal plan. Their goal has been depopulation, and they have been working on this for a long time, since the Iron Mountain Report back in 1967 or so. So this is the agenda, right? They had to bring the population down to a manageable number. That's what they've been working on. So they've been managing our numbers. Now, a lot of us don't realize this, but those numbers are really high. There's already been massive death rates. I'll bet you, if I got the accurate statistics, the death rate is passing the birth rate, and people don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Usually
Oh
it's
yeah.
2 to 1.
Especially, what they're doing with the vaccines. They're in hyper mode to go out and vaccinate everyone, to sterilize everybody. And they're pushing that. That's everything to beat down the population. It's not about go forth and multiply. It's about go forth and kill off the population. So,
Right.
I'm glad.
Go forth and kill off the population. Yeah, that plan is not a good one. Not for us. Yeah.
Not for us. Yeah. So I'm glad the military's now jumped on. Now, is there any stray of these compartments that hasn't gotten the memo yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, that's inevitable, right? But that's why I'm talking about it here. You know what? Tell your friends, everybody in the military, anybody you know, the military's on board. The real trust, the Chinese elders they're out. So all the white hats who have been protecting the Chinese elders, thinking you were doing a good work, you should feel a sense of relief because you are finally on the right side because we are the people and we are the side of the people and we are advocating for the people. We are not looking to give the wealth of the United States, all the assets, the talents, the resources, and all of the inventions and all of the amazing things about the American people and the rest of the world over to the control of the latest Chinese faction, which are the latest faction of the cabal, which is just the Chinese elders, which is just the yellow dragons and gold dragons and whatever else they are. I know the black dragons are actually Chinese, Italian, and American. So that's the United States. We're not giving our power up to these people. We are not. So, and this is an amazing breakthrough to finally have the military on our side. Now, I've always said the military are not bad. For the most part, military are honorable, good human beings. They're dedicated. They've taken an oath of office, and they have gone to fight, and in some cases to die, believing that they were fighting for freedom, having no idea in many cases they were following orders from a corrupt foreign entity that has been in control of our country for years, many years. Now, that being said, this is everyone's opportunity to make that right again. And they get to now. What will happen? What can happen now is this. This is the big question, right? When she liquidated Wells Fargo because Wells Fargo was 400% negative liquidity, and so as a failed asset, she sold it back to the U.S. government for $1. Now, if the U.S. government would have just sent her back, what she asked for was this. She said she gave $1. If they would have sent her back, she wanted this little like Sacagawea coin, the $1 coins. If they would have just sent her back $1, then all of this mess could have been avoided because that would have been absolute proof that the exchange had taken place, that she was the authority. But instead, they took control of the bank, right? And they fired a bunch of people. But then they continued to let the same, quote unquote, experienced bankers, right? Experienced bankers are much like experienced terrorists, right? That's what their experience is because they, as far as managing money and making money, they were 400% negative liquidity, right? So when that happened, what we expected to happen is that the military would go in and they would take control of the bank and then would bring the bank under national control, and this would have been easy. We would have been easily funding projects all over the country, all over the world. Prosperity. We would be a year into a completely different prosperity movement. But because they were all banking on the global currency reset and the revaluation, they thought that when that happened, everything would start coming up roses. They would have this, and the whole everybody would be rich, and it'd be great. Not really considering the impact it would have in automatically devaluing the dollar, crashing every economy in the world to allow them to come in and buy back everything for pennies on the dollar.
Well, it would have been like Zimbabwe, right? The devaluation of the currency so quickly that you need $100 trillion note to buy a loaf of bread.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so everybody who would be trading in their Zimbabwe dollars to get U.S. dollars, it would be worth the same thing. it would be all of a sudden you'd have $100 trillion U.S. dollars that would be worth that $100 trillion Zimbabwe note. It'd be worthless because they would have crashed everything. This would have caused global panic, would have sparked off a series of other events. The global panic would have caused mass hysteria. It would have caused a million other things. This was connected to the release of various biological weapons, which they have been using on us already. And, it would have created this terrible situation where the necessity of turning the United States into a third world country overnight, and then the United Nations, they would send their military in and take over our military, and then from there they could commit massive acts of genocide because there would be it would be the terror of the biological warfare would be upon us, right? Because they'd be like, oh, there's this disease, there's the zombie virus, which they tested out down in Florida, right? That Dan talked about. And if people were walking around as zombies and running at you to bite you, and try to eat you, believe me, we'd all be a little terrified, right? So we wouldn't mind if we wouldn't even think twice if a jet came in and just started nuking and just blowing people up. We wouldn't think about it because we think they're doing what they have to do, right? They're doing what they have to do to keep us safe. That's what we would think. And in their minds too, they're doing what they have to do to keep us safe. But that is just hype. All of that was to release this depopulation agenda to start to take out the people, create a manageable population, and harvest the adrenochrome from the organs and all the other things that are beautiful and amazing about people, and then enslave the rest of us, and then blame us for it. Make sure we all knew it was our fault. That's a part that every time I think about that, it makes me so mad. Like you view shame as such an effective tool, you know, that people are just ashamed to be themselves.
Well, it's amazing we're at this point. If we have this breakthrough and the military is actively helping, could the military, just they have their own banking? Can't they transfer money if there's any other obstacles then? To individual accounts.
So the last report I got from Kim just a few minutes ago was that and I questioned it. She said that the military was currently trying to go around the Treasury, right? And I asked immediately because I'm skeptical now because I've they've told us these guys, not the military but the Rothschilds, they always lie to us, right? That's their thing. They, oh yeah, we'll do this, and then they never do it, right? And then they go in and they think they're secretly getting away with something, and they try to hack the system. Well, the system is controlled by Kim, so anything you do in that system, Kim knows, right? So they'd say one thing, and then they'd go in to hack the system, and Kim would know. That's why about a year ago, when they tried to hack the trust, and they were trying to do, and we were all expecting the RV to happen. I'm the one that gave them the override codes because Kim gave it to me. And I identified exactly where they were hacking from, which was the United Nations Black server, and I gave them the override codes to stop them. But and then and then they stopped talking to me after that because the fact that I had that information meant I I knew it was them, right? Because if they were trying to, if they had the override codes, they would have busted in there and stopped those guys, right? But that's not what they were doing because it was their guys. So so we've been in this sense, combative enemy in a sense, right, to the military because they were deceived. So now the military's on our side because we've always been on the same team in reality, right? They just had bad information. So now they have embraced the full scope. They realize what's going on, and you know what? And I will stop antagonizing them to do the right thing. So I appreciate that, and I'm very pleased that's the state. So they are, and what I clarified with Kim because I thought, well, if they're trying to bypass the Treasury, are you saying that the block is at the Treasury, or are you saying that they lied to us, right? And they're trying to bypass the Treasury to steal the money? And she confirmed, no, they're not. They are the block is somewhere at the Treasury, right? That they're trying to identify, but it's not. They are working with us, but they are working with us diligently to clear these funds. Now, if you have the full force of the United States military and they are finally back on our side, working for the people, to protect the people, working to bring these funds in so that we can start funding projects, let me tell you something. It is done. I I mean, I was fearless before, but I'll tell you what, I'm so excited I'm going to do it myself. I know we won. I know we won. So that's where we're at.
That would be wonderful. We are done and we're moving forward. Getting the military to help us at this point is amazing. So, and what about the U.S. Treasury?
So I didn't get exact clarity from Kim on other than the military is for us, which that is the most important thing. I know the Treasury is also working with us, but keep in mind, Steve Mnuchin had his hooks in all over it. He was blackmailing all types of people in the Treasury because he was in charge of setting up these horrible sex parties where they bring in these scumbag elites, right? And they all stand around in a circle, some weird satanic sex ritual. Then they'd bring in a bunch of 9-year-old to 13-year-old girls, and they'd line them up in the middle, and all these men would have to take their pick of the girl they were going to go rape. And so And I guess in some cases they were forced to do this, but like, to be honest, I would have died that day. You couldn't have forced me. So, long story short, they then make videotapes of people doing horrible things, and they use it to blackmail them, right?
Right.
So Mnuchin was blackmailing all these people. Now I'm not saying that that's necessarily how they were being blackmailed. I'm just using that as an example. But but in that he himself, took a 13-year-old girl and as she through a wall of tears cried and he raped her. Then they showed that to his wife just to let him know that we got him. So they have no secrets from us anymore. There's nothing Kim can't see. There's nothing. There's when the CIA satellites went down, that's because Kim took them down because they kept interfering with the transfers. It wasn't some other force. That was the quantum system. There is, she's videotaped them and live streamed it when they're in the super secret wire transfer room, right, where no one's allowed, and they sat there, coming up with a plan on how to steal the $180 million we transferred in for projects. And she videotaped the whole thing, and they couldn't understand how did she videotape it. There's no video cameras in there because she literally it pixelates directly through the screens, and she's able anything with an electronic signature is able to create a video, grab the audio, and know exactly what's happening. So there is no secrets. Anything they think, all you guys out there that are still plotting, stop. You are not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. You're not clever enough. She sees you coming a mile away. So, better just everybody just stop with that resistance because she's for us. She's for the people. And for the most part, these are all just people. It's people making decisions about other people. And it's time for everybody to just put down your, I'm not telling you, keep your guns, but put your gun away, put your sword away, and let's rebuild the planet the right way. Let's find ways to work together. Let's find ways to do this the right way. And we have that. We have all the tools needed. We know how to do it. We know what's needed. And all the pieces are ready to go. We are ready to go. And right now the military is pushing. And I'll tell you, if there was any piece, and I would never say it publicly, but if there was any piece I was worried about, it was even after this goes, if the military's still against us, you got guys following orders, right? And if they're following orders and they see any of us as an enemy of the state, you know what? What chance do you have? So
we were talking about in the a little while ago is that the Chinese elders were paying the military, but was it really the Chinese elder or was it Kim?
No, that was the Chinese elders. So what they did was the Chinese elders, they took out, they got credited a capital loan from, I think it was a Bank of China, and they took this loan and they used it to produce all of the U.S. military equipment. Now, first of all, that's a red flag. Why the hell would anybody make our military equipment except for us, right? Then they leased the equipment back to the United States military at a massive profit, at a hugely exorbitant number, right? And this is what, by the way, when they talk about the military industrialized complex, right? It is this, what they do is like, you might go buy a box of bullets and it costs you $10. Well, it's going to cost them $100, right? Everything is massively inflated so that, they get this huge overage and 80% of everything would go back to the Rothschilds. So basically what they did is they leased back the equipment to the United States military. So the military was paying them, right? Then they would take the profits from that and they would pay the military salary. Now, all that was just credits that were, and there was money in the system, and particularly in the Chinese government. They still did have assets in their system, right? And they were one of the last ones. I think they still do, but not HS. They used to work out of HSBC, the Chinese elders, but and work with the Hong Kong Monetary Authority as well. But they're, at this point, there's no, HSBC has completely been disabled. I mean, they have like they're running their whole bank out of like some offshore account because their system's been shut down since like September.
Well, just a little side note here. We were very close to 300 people watching, and 82 likes. Come on, everyone hit the like. But that's double than what's normally showing. During our broadcast. So it's just interesting that I don't know if there's a block being removed or we just had more people know to jump on this particular one because of the title. Big breakthrough. Manna World Holding Trust has the military and Treasury on our side.
That's right. So, and we will be using, to get people more involved because we're going to continue to do broadcasts on a regular basis. We'll figure out exactly how to do it the most effective way and use, Dan will figure it out. I kind of sprung it on him today. And clearly I'm not qualified to do that.
Well, I figure out if it's a broadcast or not.
Yeah, well, I was told that they could hear us, and then, but I couldn't tell, and I couldn't hear you. So I definitely need feedback. I definitely need to be able to see something, and hear somebody's voice to know that I'm not just talking by myself. So
and we'll figure that out. There are some people popping up here who said that they were in the military, and so I'm just looking at the questions on the side here. Some people are asking they want to ask some tangible questions. So I don't know.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how they're not asking them. They're just they're just saying that if they want to ask questions, but they haven't asked them yet. We could give out the link and people can jump on if you'd like to do that. I haven't given them the link yet either.
I mean, they can type the questions in. I don't know if that's the most effective way. Tomorrow night, I think by tomorrow night, Dan will probably be able to figure out the Blog Talk radio thing, right? And then with Blog Talk, you can actually call in. So and we're both fine with taking questions and make sure to manage that stuff. And I had originally, hoped Kim and Thomas would get done, and I invited them to come on. So we'll see if we can get them to come on as well. I would imagine, wouldn't surprise me if Kim goes on Thomas's show tomorrow night. So that might be a good reason to, wait till Thomas's show is over, for anybody. Dan, we might want to wait. But I'm just guessing that, but she hasn't confirmed that yet. But I can tell you that there's a marked shift, and then now that doesn't mean that the nonsense will stop, by the way. This is where it begins for us. This is where we get in the game, right? So this is the beginning. And you have, the debacle that they're playing out, right, where the anti-Trump Democrat regime, right, are just all the anti-Trumpers, right? They just, anything Trump says, they say the opposite. It doesn't matter what he says. It's crazy. So think about how ridiculous this is. It is the Ninth Circuit that made it so that you couldn't make sanctuary cities illegal. And the Democrats attacked Trump for trying to outlaw sanctuary cities, right? Well, lo and behold, President Trump got him, right? He said, no problem. We have a border crisis, so we're going to take all those people from the border and we're going to put them in your sanctuary cities, which, by the way, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, doesn't it?
It makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense.
I mean, you want sanctuary, so we're going to bring them to you. Like you don't get to just talk from the, from the bleachers. You're in the game too, guys. So you guys asked for it? Absolutely. So Mayor de Blasio, this putz that he is, he says he's going to sue President Trump if he tries to bring people from the border and drop them in New York, because New York's a sanctuary city, right? Because New York right now is like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? It's crazy here. So they now what basis is that on? Isn't that what the sanctuary city is?
Right.
Now, if your whole platform was to defy the president,
they filled out these documents to be a sanctuary city, right? A declaration of sanctuary city, but it had a NIMBY clause, not in my backyard clause.
Oh, I'm like, what's a NIMBY clause? I got you. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, we're a sanctuary city. You know, we love these people. We want them to come. They're wonderful. They're going to add so much to our economy, but just not really. We don't want them here.
Yeah, it's like
I mean, it
me.
doesn't make any sense.
Right. It's like when people would say, some of my best friends are black, but I would, but I don't want to spend time with them. like I don't want to live in my neighborhood, right? That's the mentality. Like that ignorance is what they're perpetuating. So you know what? You'll notice this too, Dan. You'll notice how like all these guys, they're all filing lawsuits, right? They're also instead of like, why aren't they like pursuing this on some legal basis, right? Because the UCC guideline, the UCC codes, they don't have the same force anymore. They're not enforced the same way, so they can't do it. So they're trying to, use the civil courts to try to make a ruckus. So I think I'm gonna file a counter lawsuit against Mayor De Blasio. I
Yeah,
just don't know on what
for
basis
not
yet.
allowing them to come there.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you, Mayor De Blasio, stop these valuable illegal immigrants from coming to our sanctuary city?
We want them to come. Yeah, it's a good one.
It seems like they would want them to come now that they made, infanticide legal, right? It's like it seems like they'd want to because they could control them and pay them low wages and basically buy them to have kids and kill off their kids. Hopefully, I didn't just give them another a business idea. I mean, I know that is one of their plans that they have. That's why this
I think there's
crazy.
something already in operation, so I don't think
Yeah, it's already it's not new. So, but I think that to me is one of the most prominent things going on right now. That's where we're at. That the legal system in the mainstream media does not make sense.
Well, one second. We got a couple of people that are I told you asking some questions, right? So we got Arid Farouk Ani, saying that he wants to ask questions. Well, go ahead and type in your questions. What are you waiting for? There's 2 or 3 of them in there. They may let's just say that their texts stick out, right? So we'll see what their questions are.
Yeah, a lot of times people say they want to ask questions, and what they really want to do is they want to speak their mind, and that's what they're really saying. Like, so they go to ask a question, and they give you like a 15-minute dissertation on who they are and what their history is, and like what their concerns are. Just ask a straight question. I promise you, we'll know the context of what it is. And that was what the goal was tonight with the blog talk, because I was hoping we'd open it up for questions and let people, get a feel for what's going on, because there's people waking up all over the world right now. People are realizing, because there's a massive shift there's a transition in power, and it's really the way it's always supposed to have been, that the government is drawing their power from the governed, right? Not the bureaucrats who existed above the government. Those bureaucrats are disabled. They are no longer a force to be reckoned with. All of their methodology has been exposed as being fraudulent. We have all accepted this for our whole lifetime. People have just dismissed the crimes of the elite, saying things like, what am I going to do about it? We can't change it. That's the way it is. All those things are not acceptable anymore. You cannot say that anymore, because it's not that way anymore. That's not the way it is. What they're doing is corrupt now.
Yeah, there's signs all around that point to this out. Like we were pointing out that the Fed is not. They were going to, go through these cycles of raising the rates and then lowering the rates and all. But now they're not. Nothing's happening. They're talking about it, but they're not doing anything. There's not going to be any rate changes. Why? They can't change the rate. And now you see like central banks around the world, they have no money. Well, where do you think they got their money? It came from the Federal Reserve. Why? For the last couple of months, people in Fiji, the Fiji government don't have any money to pay the airlines and the teachers and anyone. They don't have any money. So this is happening everywhere around the world. And now it's on the front of now if you have gold somewhere and it's their safekeeping for you, they won't give it back to you. Doesn't matter. It's yours. You gave it to them to hold for you, and they're going to charge you these exorbitant now it's like insurance fees to give it back to you that are more than the value of the gold. Now that's a bunch of BS. You have all of your gold sitting in some place. So why is this? Was there not they if they give up the gold, they go under, and it's already been taken from there. It's already been absorbed by the system, right? You gave your gold over. Just think of it just like the confiscation they did. They did it before. You know, back in the 1930s, they basically confiscated all the gold. Now, you only had to do it if you were a citizen of Washington, D.C., or America, United States Incorporated, right? That 1 square mile. But around the whole country, they all turned over their gold because they thought they were all citizens of Washington, D.C., or rather, the United States Inc. But but so that confiscation took place. So that's also showing up. So everything is in transition right now. You can't get your gold. Central banks have no money. The Fed can't raise and lower rates, right? And now, we're going to see now that the military is now realized that we're working for some reason for the Chinese elders. Whatever the reasoning was, does that make any sense? No. Trump has changed the course of where the economy was going to the point where he's bringing back jobs and being able to at least cushion the landing for everybody. And this is a world changing event. The money is going to flow out through the projects, through Create Change and through what is it? What's Thomas's organization? Is it the People's Club?
The People's Club. Yeah.
The People's Club. So the projects are going to all flow out through, and the money will flow out through projects through those two entities. So this is now underway. We're right at the cusp of seeing the funds actually hit people's accounts. So we're finally there.
Well, and also, uh, we had that call last night, Dan, at like 4 in the morning my time, and one of the things that's really important for people to realize is that there's a specific methodology of how we're bringing this money out. Right, there has to be a pipeline for the projects. So this is the basic law of supply and demand. So when you bring money into the economy, it has to increase in value. It has to be, it has to be something that's creating value. So just giving money out doesn't do that. That's why the welfare system is so broken, right? It doesn't create value. Matter of fact, it puts people in a situation where they can never really, it's very hard to make advancements, I'll say. So the way it works with the projects, right, is that we're creating value, we're identifying talents, we're identifying, creating jobs, creating products, and we're creating new value. Now, in doing that, though, it's not enough just to create, new value. We also have to do it in a way that completely excludes, the previous controllers out of the model. Because what they would do is they would control every aspect of production from the mine to the refinery to the assembly plant to the whoever makes the parts to the labeling company to the distribution center to the retail. They would control all those aspects, and all it would take is for them to tell any one of those places that has a product you need not to do business with you. And if they wouldn't do business with you, your incredible invention, your idea, your concept, your business would just evaporate. It just wouldn't exist. And that's how they've controlled everything, right? So we have to go back to the mine on everything. We got to go back to the roots on everything. So from the roots up is how we have to build. So when a new project comes in and they have, X, Y, and Z product, we need to go in and make sure that we buy the actual factory that's going to build something. That we own the mine, and not us per se, but we're going to make sure that the people of that area, that they own the mine, and not some 1% of the elites who don't even live in that area. They live in Paris or something, and they just happen to have a mine there as well because they own everything. So you take away that, and you make ownership to be local. You make ownership to be where people are invested in their community. So the success of that business and the ethical manner in which it operates is essential to our success. That way we know that no one's trying to hurt anyone else. We're all in support of each other being successful. We want that. We should all be each other's biggest advocate all the way around. So that's why bringing money in through the projects allows us to do that, right? Versus just giving money out, right? We're actually creating value and we're making sure it's secure. And we set up GoCamelot.com. And the reason why we set up Go Camelot is so that we could set up trusts for people. So it's under an unincorporated, tax exempt association. And everybody in that, we bring them under that same umbrella. So then when we transfer money, for the most part, we're setting up accounts with people who have, set up a trust with us, right? And this trust allows them that we can put that money right into their trust within the same bank, and it's protected the whole time. And then we all agree, everybody in that association, that we're going to do business with other people in the association. So everybody in that association agrees that we are going to operate in an ethical manner. We're going to do things that are in the best interest of the people, of the planet, and the individual human experience. Now, if you repeat that enough times, eventually what it'll do is it'll just crowd out all the other nonsense. And now, because we're bringing in the money and they don't have money anymore, that is finally possible for us to do that. And knowing that we have the protection of the military now, finally, that really makes things possible. That pushes everything forward. So, those practical questions come up yet?
Not one. No. Go on, Aaron. You basically are asking about asking some pertinent questions likely to lead to some tangible solutions regarding issues that affect humanity. Well, ask your questions. It's like 4 times people had asked it, and they're different names, but it's the same tone. So, anyway, so let's see what the questions are. Oh, when can I get money? There's the question, right? That's the pertinent question that everyone wants to ask. Whoa, what happened there?
Hello?
Yeah, sorry, my TV got off of the YouTube channel and just started playing. I mean, it switched to the regular source. I do not know why. And because Tui's on the line. Hello, Tui.
Tui messed up the TV.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Hey, Tank. I'm good. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. Good, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't on the call and I was not listening in. I just jumped in right now. So
we have exciting news.
Okay.
I can update you quick. So
yes, please.
Finally, after all this time of fighting against the Pentagon,
your voice is low.
The Pentagon had a revelation yesterday, and as of this morning, they have been helping us clear transfers all day because we were bringing in transfers and they were still getting blocked, and so the Pentagon is actively working with us now. They finally realized that Kim is not the enemy, and they realize what has been happening all along, how they were deceived. So, on our side, which means we are very close to breaking through on levels.
I think Tui has some background commotion going on.
It's a party in Fiji, man. It's
yeah. There you go. So they just heard the news. So we just want to show our support and our appreciation to the news today that finally everything is moving forward. And yeah, and so like I said, we've we are doing the same thing every day. More and more people coming in here, and they are connecting to the shows, and they are listening, and they want they want to come and ask questions, and the same thing, they come here and they learn about their own sovereignty, and the true everything about how they've been they've been slaves for all their life, and what trust means to, and all the change that is happening, and this new creation that we're all trying to create together. And because I'm letting them know that all the energy is needed for this whole change. So includes everyone on the planet, and it's a very it's a exciting time, and we'll wait and see on the progress that you guys are having. I'm very thankful to to you, Dan. Thankful to Kim and the team, and they've been really trying, really working really hard without any, without resource, without money, and without, they've been doing this out of the love from within themselves, and we are grateful, and yeah. So I know I have nothing else to say, but being thankful. Yeah, thank.
Well, thank you. That's a you're always so thankful. Thank you for being thankful.
Yes, being thankful is the only way this new future will be created in a very clear way. Because you're always appreciating the good things, even some bad things, and all this appreciation and all this energy will be able to, you'll be able to. That's how you can correct everything and realign everything. Because if you're not thankful, then you won't be appreciating the goodness and all the gifts that your body is giving you, that the planet is giving you. And being grateful is just simply, you're just simply recognizing the creative energy that is within you and that is within everyone else. So yeah, like I said, I'm really grateful. I had yeah. So I just wanted to, I just want to thank to actually just expand that just a little bit more, if he can do, so
Sure.
that yeah.
I can repeat it more clearly. So essentially, through this entire process, we have been opposed by every major faction of world domination, from corporations to the banks to the military to the politics. Every one of these organizations, in some way, shape, or form, has been under the control of the dragon families, the Chinese elders, the various you know elders of the world who claim to be something different. Um, all of the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. We've They've had control of everything, right? They were masterful at taking control of every aspect of our society. Now, the mainstream media is really the last tool they have at this point, where they can still send out messages that are false. And the Pentagon was disabled. They weren't able to access the accounts. They weren't able to see what was going on anymore. So finally, last night, and I think, I would. This has, in part, has to do to that Kim took the administrative fee. Now, there's a 2% administrative fee that is paid to the trust, and she took 1% of that, or I'm sorry, she took 50%, like half of that, and she turned around and she put it towards building homes for families that lost a veteran, in some conflict, and also to help the veterans that come back from various conflicts. You know, the current system, obviously, people are aware that the veterans hospitals are subpar in a lot of ways, and also, what they do essentially is, when veterans come back from, military service after, serving their country, fighting for freedom, essentially, they come back, and what would happen is they would be given antipsychotics, which would obviously, create an altered state and affects everyone differently. And then they would send them to therapy, and therapy where they would relive those events over and over and over again, right? And this is not the best way to treat veterans by any means. So to develop programs for veterans when they come back that provide them with a transitional time, where they're empowered to live a life in the regular world where we live, right, and have that independence is essential, right? There's to support them when they come back is very important. Now they have an incredible skill set, but when you're told what to do and you're trained and you're programmed with all types of training, you have an incredible muscle memory response, you have incredible tactical response, but you don't have a whole lot of clear independent thinking, at least generally. Now it's not always the case, but that's what happens a lot of times. So that's why you have a lot of veterans come back and they're recovering with post-traumatic stress disorder and things of that nature, which, and then on top of that, they're usually drugged with various um, what appears to be supplements when they're hiking through some jungle somewhere to survive. But these are all infused with all types of drugs. There's also various vaccines and other drugs that they're given, and these drugs are all designed to deafen their free will and their ability to resist. Now that's not the case with it's not always the case, but it's very prominent in the military, especially when you're deployed. So to create programs for those veterans is very important. So Kim took half of all the money she was owed, which is her money, and she put that towards those projects. So that definitely helped open the door. I think from what I hear from some of my guys, the other night I broke this down, and I recommend anybody listen to it if you haven't. Dan did cut it out into a 13-minute segment, and it was the first time I ever verbalized it. But I broke down what the entire plan was that all stimulated from the Iron Mountain report, but ultimately with the global currency reset, how that would have been the catalyst to set off a series of other events. And it was the first time I kind of went through them line by line to show how they would have used that, and it would have led to a collapse of the economy. It would have led to global martial law, the United Nations taking over, the introduction of cryptocurrency, the introduction of universal income, and essentially would have turned us into slaves. They would have introduced various deadly biological weapons, which would have created a mass global panic, and it would have justified, the killing off of, cities and massive amounts of population, and that would have been, in many ways, been conducted by the military, of course, right? So apparently, I would imagine that had hopefully somebody heard that, and that helped wake them up. So with that in mind, that was on Sunday night, and then last night, the military they had a revelation because I know the things I was saying were true, and the way that they had been able to enslave all of us, but in particularly it works very well with military training, is they would keep everything in compartments, right? And you don't need to know what the other compartment's doing. But in reality, that's not how it works, right? So all these different compartments, everyone thinks they're at the top, and they think they're in the know, and what they're doing is righteous and is for the greater good. And for the most part, these are good people that are just following orders because they trust the system. But the system was designed not to serve the people, right, but to serve the elite. So finally, they realized what was going on. And we talked about part of the reason why that happened is because the Chinese elders were paying the military salaries for about 4 years. And my understanding is they have not been able to do that for past several months because Kim completely cut them off. So they finally caught on, and they had a revelation. And as of this morning, for the very first time, now they have been one of our biggest opponents. They have worked through various channels, various agencies. They have a global dominance on levels, and they finally realized that Kim is not the bad guy. It's the Chinese elders and the Rothschild. They are the bad guys. They're the ones who have been planning the depopulation and the elimination of humanity and this entire corrupt agenda. They're the ones who are responsible for things like fluoride in our water and chemicals, smart dust in our air, and modifying our food and creating things like the Green New Deal and the sustainable agenda from the United Nations, which, you know, is all designed around depopulation. That's why Bill Gates will be up at the TED Talks and he's talking about reducing the population. And if you look around you and you live in a city, I live in New York, and I can tell you that there are just less people. And I believe strongly in my heart that what they've been doing is they've been slowly, quote unquote, abolishing poverty, right? And the way they've been doing that is by killing off the impoverished. They've been doing that through chronic illnesses, chronic disease like diabetes, like cancer, creating things like AIDS, these are all registered with I don't think diabetes is, but the other ones are registered with the Center for Disease Control. These are drugs that were man-made and created and implemented strategically in various points of the population to weaken our foundation. And all of that has been taking place for a long time. But I would start it, say, back in 1975 or so when the factions came together and decided to do to honor their 100-year agreement to transfer power from the Western factions of the Black Dragons over to the Eastern factions of the Yellow Dragons in China. And this has been the plan that has been taking place for at least the past 40 plus years. Now, that being said, the military was always a key component in that. And I read the email myself from the Rothschilds when Kim offered them, terms to just negotiate, and she try to get out of this whole thing peacefully without all the damage. And I read it, and the way they spoke to her, I mean, they said we will not negotiate with you, slave. They said, and if you try to resist, they said 80% of everything is ours. And if you try to resist us, we will destroy you with the power of our minds. That's what they said. And they said, what you don't realize is that the military is our slaves. And that's what they said. Okay. Now, so everybody who's in this military personnel, I know for a fact to dedicate your life, your training, your everyday to this very rigorous and demanding lifestyle with the belief that you're fighting for freedom, to have someone who is not even part of the government you're fighting for, not even one of the people that you're fighting for or that you are, to find out that they are the ones pulling the strings and they see you as slaves, I would have to believe that on some level finally penetrated the subconscious of the leadership of the American armed forces. And they had a revelation about it last night. And as of this morning, they changed sides. And this morning, they were actively helping us because we had transfers coming in for the projects that, as you know, that's where we're at. So we have project funding that is in the banks now that should be cleared, and it keeps getting blocked in a clearing account. And
Nice.
what it appears is that those people in the banks still are being told to block the funds from clearing, to not let them clear. And because of that, that's why we don't have tangible money in our hands right now. But the money's already in the banks. We've already confirmed that. We know it's on ledger. It's been we know that it's there. The only thing we don't have is the actual ability to use it right now. So we know that that's already happened. That's already taken place. And the current situation is that the military has finally intervened for us instead of against us. So they have come on board, and I don't really know what, I don't know how they had a choice, to be honest. So, but they came on board and they have been working with the Department of the Treasury all day to try to get transfers to clear. Apparently, the transfers are still being blocked somehow at the Treasury, and I don't think Kim has identified that yet. That was as of earlier. So, I mean, so she, for the first time, she's not alone, because she's taking down all these jokers by herself. And so basically, the military, they've been helping us clear the transfers. And last I heard, they were trying to figure out, or they were working on getting the transfers to clear without having to go through the Department of the Treasury. And I'm certain, because Steve, scumbag Mnuchin there, because he was given this high level of clearance, NATO level clearance for a while, even after he was fired as the treasurer, and he just refused to leave, to show you just how corrupt our government is, that if you just defy the president, apparently you can do that if you're high up in the order. And so I'm sure he has all sorts of plants and other issues that need to be rooted out there in the Treasury. And so the military was working with us to bypass them. But I'll say this, I have a lot of military contacts, a lot of military associates, and they are the guys I know. And the reason why I am such a fan of the military is they are relentless, and they are dedicated, and they will be heartbroken on many levels when they realize what they've been used to do. And they're good men and women who they are about the cause, and they are really about protecting the people, and they're dedicated, and they're willing to die for it. So I don't want any of them to die for it. I want them to live for it. And I recommend we all do the same. One of the most misquoted scriptures all the time, misunderstood, is when you say that someone gave their life for you. There's two ways you can give your life for someone. You could die for them. Well, that's not really, doesn't do a whole lot because it's over right away. But when you live for someone, when everything you do, every part of who you are, everything that you express, everything you talk about, every interaction you have, everything about you is for the greater good. It's for the people. That is someone who is living for the people. That's someone who's given their life for the people, not someone who just goes and gets killed. So I don't want any more soldiers killed. What I want good men and women with integrity and honor to act like it, be that, and realize it. And we don't gotta worry about what happened. What we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on what is happening now. And what is happening now is those good men and women are working diligently to help liberate humanity by allowing those transfers to clear right now as we speak. And I can guarantee you that they are not going to go to bed until that's done. That help, Tui?
Sounds good.
Indeed.
Indeed. Well, in Fiji, like I said, we're just we're thankful. I'm sure you thank. You're very right. About how the people and the lives that are spent, that have been used. It is already time for it to be enough. And I'm thankful for the opportunity last night to be talking with the Hawaiian elders, and actually begin the awareness. I've been contacted. We're in contact with the people in Hawaii through Sam and Jean, through Judy, and like I said, they had no idea about everything that's happening. So I had to send them some documents. I had to send Lino the document so that they can actually understand the truth or the game that has been played, and for people to realize that they're just playing that game, and it's time for the game to be over. And so that you'll change the things, the way you actually live your life, the way you how you do things. And I'm thankful that we are in this moment. It's the beginning of this change. It's funny that this morning there was some elders here. They had dreams even before we had this news. They already knew that this was happening. They told me that they had dreamt about it last night, and they woke up this morning, and then all of them are telling me that they can see from the perspective of the Manna, they can see it being gathered and and the gathering has begun. And then, now that you just came on the talk, and that's the first thing you guys want to update me with. And I just said, yeah, what you dreamt about is now, Tank is actually talking about it. So, as part of the collective of the planet, everyone is connected to it, and they can feel this change that is happening. And and I'm thankful, and I'm thankful to the people there in the U.S. and all the work that they've been doing, all the sacrifice that they've been doing, all the time and all the resources that they given out of out of love to be able to complete this and to be able to see this future through, and to be able, now that we're in this time, we'll be able to accelerate this really fast. We were talking about how how we can start this up in small islands, in wherever, in all the projects around the world. And as soon as the money starts coming in, it will accelerate a lot of things, because people, that's almost 80 to 90% of the awareness, just by I said last night, if there's just a few $1 million that comes to Fiji, uh, just to boom, just to start up the progress, the celebration. I will be inviting everyone from all around the Pacific, and this will just it will just communicate the whole thing to the rest of the planet. And that's how Kim actually got recognized from what she did, the good thing that she did, to be able to share that amount, and actually people just realize that the veterans were helped, and all these good things, and that's how the sovereignty will be regained to the rest of the people of the planet, when we do things, good things, to our neighbors or to the people around us. And everyone will realize it around us, and it will become a light, and it will shine in every to everyone, to the rest of the planet. And it will become, there'll come a time, we won't need money anymore. There will be, everything will be done out of out of agreement, out of free will, out of love. And all these things will become, and people will become truly sovereign. And so, this is the beginning of this wonderful time that we are in. And as here in Fiji, as the role to be able to do this, and to be able to teach the lesson here in our country and around the Pacific, and even to Australia, to New Zealand, because they are all waiting for it. All of them, also, some of them in the know that they're waiting for the projects to be funded. And I know as soon as that money comes in, by this communication that we're doing right now, it will translate from just a normal project to a project that will work as a way to cultivate the sovereignty for the people. And so, we'll wait for that moment that we get recognized by Kim, and as soon as the funds comes in, we will do the diligence that we have to do. We will work on our the role that we are supposed to be playing, and that is to there's like I said, 885,000 people in Fiji, and we are on a time right now that just like anywhere in the world, liquidity crisis on the banks. The people are not getting paid. The government are not running well. They're trying to find money from everywhere. They're trying to find it from the IMF, from the World Bank, from wherever they get it from, but they don't have that anymore. So to be able to have to be able for them to see these changes, just like for a few, just a sum that is enough for a certain amount of people, and they can be able to see the light, and they'll come and ask questions, and they will do that. Then we will have to do that from from where we are. And it is the reason why it's we need to learn how to regenerate ourselves. We can come to a different country and tell them how to do that. We have to learn to take responsibility, to be able to just work together within a country. And if you can do it around here in Fiji, everyone else in the world can do it. And if we can do that first, if we wanted to, we can show the rest of the countries or the rest of the countries here in the Pacific, especially. I've been raised by Lino from Koshia, and Koshai, yeah, from Koshai. So sending him that document, it's about the law of the sea. I want him to understand on the structure of the trust and how a trust is made and how how this has been agreed for so long, for more than 500 years, or almost 1,000 years since the Vatican has taken place. And so the document has been sent to him so he can actually have a foundation of what the trust truly means to the sovereignty of the people of the planet, and what they would be able to do to actually regain the sovereignty. So it's not just something in the piece of paper. It will be an experience for them to actually learn on their own. So they won't, they will fully understand what part they will be playing, not just for them within the people, but for them within the confederation, the Micronesian Confederation. And then together we will work together as a council in the Pacific to be able to get the rest of the Pacific Islands, not just the natives, but everyone on the islands, everyone, all the different tongues and different people that are different races that we would think that we are different, but these are all, we're all learning this lesson of love together. And so we have to first learn it within ourselves, with our closest, closest families around us. Then we will be able to do to the rest of the planet. So we are very excited. We were talking in the beginning of the meeting today. We were talking about all these dreams that they had last night, waking up this morning and seeing all these things that are happening. And I said, "Oh, there must be some good news that we're gonna have today." And as soon as you start talking about it, and they said yes, that's what we already knew it. We were waiting for it, and now it comes from Tank, and it means a lot. And I'm truly hopeful for the future, and I'm thankful to everyone that is online right now, watching online on the live chat. Thank you so much for your time, for the love and the energy of love that you have within you to be with us today. And please, like the show, like all the shows that's been happening for the past weeks, and leave try and share it. And thank you so much for your time and the energy to be here and be united with us, as one. Thank you so much. Yeah. So again, thank you, thank you, Kim, thank you, Dan, thank you.
Thank you, and I thank the other sovereign that's speaking up there, the little child.
Oh yes,
I know, I love it.
yes. She's yeah, that's the way she communicates to me. So when she's calling me, that's the way she calls me. So yeah, that's
Well, okay. Well, it's yeah. We have a lot happening, so it's good. She speaks up. The rooster hasn't said anything yet today.
I'm not home. I'm at a meeting. So every time, yeah. So if you hear the rooster, that means I'm in the farm. I'm at home. And so if you hear the it means I'm in the meeting. And so yeah. So there are a lot of other new people that are coming in today. The first time for them to actually learn. And some of them are here even during that announcement that Tank has just announced. And it's the first time for them to learn everything. It's like last night when we were talking with the chiefs in Hawaii, or the elders in Hawaii. It's the first time for them to even hear about the Manna World Holding Trust, or the what is truly has been happening behind the scenes, and how we are involved, and the reason why we actually talking with them. And yeah, it's everyone will have to start somewhere, and they will build they'll build their awareness from that moment onwards. And so over here we're doing the same thing. As people come in, as the new ones come in, we get them to learn about everything. We give them the documents that just to create a foundation, and we tell them that it's their choices. You go and you spend your time learning this and try to understand it on your own. And everything, there will be time for everyone to be able to to be able to grow and to be able to learn the sovereignty that is within them. And no one is forced or is told that that maybe it's not time yet, because this is how I told the almost 1,000 people that are here that were here today, that we have to do it. We have to do this. We are the only one that will be able to enlighten the rest of the country, and we will have to do it through the protocols, through our cultural protocol. We won't be able to do it through the religious groups or the denomination. We won't be able to do it through our politics and our political way of awareness. We will have to do it through what we call the Manna, which is our traditional way of life, and of course that's the only thing that equates everyone and makes everyone realizes that they're all sovereign, and it's hidden in our language, and it's hidden in the way we live our life. So yeah, so that's the first project that we'll be doing as soon as everything is in a line. As soon as Kim completes her role in what it means to be sovereign for our nations here, we will change the name of our country from Fiji to Vanua Nimana. Vanua Nimana means the land of Mana. Simply means the earth of Mana. I don't know how to actually put that in English, but it simply means the sovereignty that has been returned to the planet. That's what it means. We'll have to we'll change that as soon as we start aligning the physical part or the money and the needs of the people, so they can fully realize that money is not the most important thing in life. Money is just a tool, and money, the most important thing is you and your family and the people, and the way of the creative force that is within you, and you have to get connected to that, and we'll do that physically. We won't be in Fiji. We'll be doing it. We'll be traveling all around the country. We'll be visiting all the families, all the different chiefs, and we'll do it in a traditional. We call it Darsal. Simply means it's the return of the mana, and because the whole country is waiting for it, and to be able to, for them to actually physically be represented to them in a ceremony, in a carve ceremony, in a cultural ceremony, it will instill it into their hearts and mind, that for them to fully realize that all the agreements has come to pass. Now it's back to the sovereignty that was entrusted in the trust has to be back to every individual through their awareness, through their experiences that they will have to go through time from now onwards. And so this is the awareness, the understanding that all the chiefs here are fully committed to. So as soon as we align with Kim, and if she gives time to actually give us what it's supposed to mean to be a sovereign nation, we'll work with her, and we'll do this celebration, and we'll work to the government, and we'll do that with the government, and because they'll need our help right now. They will need that money to actually help. It's just part of our family that will not be paid, or the wages. And so we don't want them to, get hurt and cannot, provide for their different families. And so yeah, so it's gonna be a very interesting beginning, because it's gonna be a new beginning of reuniting, re-remembering, and uniting in a very big family here as a nation, individually as a nation, and then a nation in the Pacific, and then eventually to the rest of the planet, the rest of the world. And we are, like I've always in the last few weeks, we are here being prepared to be the light. If you can change our government within a few months or within a few weeks to be in that state of true freedom, and then cultivate the learning, and that everyone in the country learns, they will be able to learn to truly be sovereign, and then we can be the sample or the light to everyone around us, or to all the countries around us. then it will begin, and we'll do it, and we'll be able to do it to the rest of the to prove that it is actually it's simple. And yeah, and you guys will be doing your part there in the US, which is just the same thing, but just a little bigger, a little challenge. But now I'm very thankful for the military that you guys are working with, and it just shows that the fifth element within everything is reorganizing itself, realigning itself, and or working as one towards this new future. And from apart from Fiji, that's we're just thankful, and we're thankful in our love and in our blessings. We're thankful, and we just want to send our our very warm gratitude and blessing to everyone that's involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tui. Tui, let me ask you a question. You said there's again another 1,000 people there today.
Yes, today they continually they come a certain amount come to them in the morning, and then in the afternoon we try and register them to there's a register that we try and keep track of the people that are coming in, and so that every day that they come in they would be able to compensate it by the day. And so once this money that comes in, once it comes in, all those the 1,000 people that are here already that are registered, some of them comes because some of them need to go and work, and some of them comes on the weekend, some of them comes on but the totality right now is more than 1,000 people that usually come in, and they come in exchange, and the awareness has been spread by them, by through the emails, through the social media, and we just come in and we just encourage each other, and we teach each other some things that has to be aligned, especially in when it comes to the physical awareness or the religious part of the alignment. I call it the religious part because of how we have a very prominent Christian culture in Fiji, and so this is one of those illusions that is needed to be not just broken down and not thrown away, but just to be realized that it is just a gift, that it's a gift that we create, and that the awareness within is not supposed to be enslaved by these beliefs. And so they take the people. It's over. I've been doing this for over a month now. From since I was 33, because that was the time I was allowed to contact the trustee when I was 33. So that's July 4th last year. That's the time that I was allowed to contact the trust. And before that, I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to speak. And that's as part of what the trust is, and that's my alignment. It's the spiritual part within. And she has to do her. Kim is the physical part outside, the creative force, which is the feminine energy. And so, after part of this month, you'll be listening to what I'm saying, and it's just I'm playing my role. That's what it is, and it's what my name is. It's what I physically represent. And so, in the future, when we get all together, when we get this everything, all the lessons and all these things that has been, it was not so clear, it will become very, very clear. And there will be no more questions about about the origins and about all this, because the answers will just come in through the time, through your DNA when it goes through time, because the answer is a little bit ahead in the future. We just have to wait for it and go through time as we are supposed to. And so I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for that lesson. I'm thankful to you guys for what you've done, and you finally connected me to Kim by just by reaching out to you and reaching out to Teng. When I'm reaching out to Teng, I'm actually connected to them, and not only me, but the people here in the Pacific. and so that's why all this is happening. Everyone is coming in together, and so I'm thankful for that. Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you very much, Tank. And full of gratitude. It was a really good news today. Really good news that you guys finally are working with the Pentagon. I know it's not going to be long now that everything is going to be moving really fast. And personally, I'm hopeful, and I wish everyone all the best in their work or in the role that they play. And may God bless us all.
Yes. God bless us all. I want to add one more thing. You said that you're registering the people. Maybe I suggest you just put them on a list.
Yeah, the words is there's so many words in English that has so many different meanings because of the hidden meanings that they're used for.
I know.
That's the
I
reason.
wanted to just, for this particular word, already with this. So,
Yeah. So, what do you think, Tang? What do you think then we should use instead of registering?
list. We add
List. Oh yeah. I'm listing. We are listing.
people
Yes.
that already know what to do. We make a list.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess yeah. So yeah, it's a list indeed. It's a list indeed.
Also, a record.
A record, yeah.
So
So we're keeping record. Yeah.
Information.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's another word that can be used.
We will. We will do it in Fijian so that we don't have any any confusion.
That's right. I was just thinking that. I was like, you know what? That would annoy me so much if I spoke another language and I didn't understand like all the ways they try to trap you with words. Because like,
Tank, your volume is low.
How about now?
Better.
Okay. I'm really loud. I feel, but okay.
Yes,
That's good. That's good.
You're doing now. Stay that way.
Okay, got it. Hey, Dan, I've got the question. I've got a bunch of questions from the chat now. I can go over.
Yeah, I know. I was seeing them. I just didn't want to interrupt Tui.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, sorry. That's we're glad to have your input. It's
you're great, Tui.
a stream of consciousness that we need to have expressed. Because it carries the mana.
Indeed.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through these, Dan, the ones I have, and you feel free to chime in with answers.
Let's try to do it rapid fire. Is what I was going to suggest, that we don't spend too much time on any one.
All right. So the first one is that I see is or that was sent to me is, how will people be helped who don't have projects but are in dire need? Okay. So that in and of itself is a project. So there is various projects that people have proposed to help people who are in dire need. Okay. And that will, however that's identified, that'll be addressed for that project. And
Project Me.
Yeah. Well, that, but what we're not just giving out. We're not just randomly giving out money to just everybody. Right? We're just throwing money out there. There has to be a production line for the most part. Now, but there's plenty of ways to incorporate people that are in need into any project, really, right? So we can incorporate the needs of people like that. And one of the things I have always talked to him about is providing relief funding as needed. So even the create change distribution centers will factor that into the cost of what they do, that there'll be funds for relief funding, right, for where it's appropriate. And that will take place that way. All right, that's one. Next one. How will you control inflation? I will not control inflation, number one. The greedy will raise prices when they know money is flowing into the system. I think that is not accurate. I think that is fear mongering. I think that has taken place because the individuals who have controlled the prices at the top always had the intention to increase the interest rates to decrease the value of the US dollar. That is by design. The actual assets that back the currency and will also control the pricing of the goods, that is set and stabilized, and that's controlled on the M1 level by Kim, and she's already stabilized that. That's why the oil prices should be consistently decreasing because the reality of what it costs to to actually produce a barrel of oil is
16
obviously
cents.
significant. Yeah, 16 cents, right? So to charge, I think Kim told me one time that it's around $27 is what the oil prices should settle at. Those prices will come down, and the cost of goods in general, will be pretty much stabilized because they'll be based on formulas that are accurate. People aren't, now that's different with like high end items like houses, right? Because like a luxury home is valuable if people are more, if people are thriving, they want to buy a nicer house and things like that. It's possible that house values could go up, artwork could go up, you know, things, like collectible cars, things that people, jewelry that people put a value on because of the artistry attached to it. And I don't personally think that's a negative thing at all. Actually, I think that actually is good for artists. I think it's good for architects. I think it's good for craftsmen who are using a skill set. But as far as like, the cost of milk, rising to be an uncontrollable level, no one no one who's creating milk is getting greedy. There's not a whole bunch of greedy farmers who are like, this is my opportunity to raise the price on milk. That's just not going to happen. All right, next one. Do your projects that are welfare oriented have to worry about a profit margin? I have no idea what does that mean. Dan, do you know what that means?
I would just think that they're wondering if they have to make money. That because they're doing something for welfare, they're trying to do something for humanity. Then maybe it's not necessary to make money, right? Well, I think everything you do should at least be self-sustaining, with including a comfortable, hedge against things that come up, incidents and things that you should have a buffer. So you can operate for a not-for-profit type of organization. You make money, but it's just enough to keep going and pay everyone really good salaries, and then again the cushions and retirements and whatever else. But not for profit is not non-profit.
Well, yeah, and
Sorry.
I think we should redefine those things for the most part too.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Sorry.
you-
Yeah. Sorry.
go ahead.
Just like because a lot of the questions will be based on the old system or the way of
Yes.
so these questions will be irrelevant as soon as this happens, because the changes that will be happening, they will be able to understand it on their own as it goes forward. We can't stand right now when we try and project something that we've never done in the future, in the past. And we'll have to go through it on our own. So there's a lot of physical questions that will be asked, but they don't understand that they're just limiting, that moment now that they're trying to create a new future. And so this kind of question, about economy and all this, they will be able to understand it as we go along. And I can go deeper into it, but
No, this is rapid fire.
yes, yeah.
Well, I mean, okay.
You can
Yeah,
explain.
yes,
Yeah.
Tui. I understand what you're saying, Tui. You're right. At the same time, there is a requirement on our part that we can't just be like, it doesn't matter. It matters to them right now, and it matters to them. So I at least want to make sure that I give them a practical answer to explain it.
Indeed.
Hopefully, will help them transition. So that being said, what was this question you just asked? I forgot. I got tuned into Tui there.
About profit.
Oh, well, the welfare. Okay, so there are projects for obvious reasons, right? That are not necessarily, it's almost like when the project's done, the work is done, right? So that wouldn't require a profit, right? If you're building a bridge, right, that might be that's it. Like you need this bridge, and you build a bridge, you pretty much you're done, right? I mean, unless you have toll or something to it, right? You're not going to control the bridge for the next 100 years. That's not the intent, but the real value, to Tui's point, right? And this goes back to the Green Lantern theory, is we have to create new metrics that evaluate what success looks like. How do you value the success of this business, right? So, and that will come down to the mission, right? So if your mission is to, provide water, fresh drinking water for all the people in Cape Town, Africa, right? And that's your mission. Well, you're going to make sure that you put things in. Your success is going to be based on, did you do it, right? And then that is your metrics for success. And it's not about, having 100 different businesses where you hold the profit and hold people hostage. Um, I don't want artists to be. This is not in line with the natural law of things. We don't want artists to be accountants, right? We don't want people that are craftsmen and creative by nature, physicians, anyone, all the different skill sets. We don't want people so focused on making money and then also judging their success based on that money. Physicians in the United States, for example, I'm heavily involved with a lot of doctors here in New York, and I watch in these different communities. In every different community, the doctors kind of gather together, and they all have their own little association. Like the League of Jewish Physicians, the League of Indian Physicians. And they'll all come together based on this, and they all give the most reverence to the doctor that makes the most money. But that doesn't make that doctor the most successful. What should be valued as success is the doctor that heals the most people, right? That would be a better metrics for success. So we're going to have to change that, right? And that starts with the people. That's why this foundation that we build has to start from that place, to Tui's point, right? And then further on that with the different projects, yes, there's definitely projects that immediately there won't be as much of a need. For example, we're talking about buying up television networks, right? And that would be a great idea to buy up television networks, because if we don't control some aspect of the media and the message being put out, how can we possibly change the shift on the planet? Because the media is such a prominent force in people's lives, right? A lot of us, we grew up and we just would have the television on at all times, right? It was just how it was growing up, right? So we have to change that. Now, if you allow advertisers to dictate what you're allowed to say, well, then you're no longer, now you're strictly focused on the money and you're trying to sustain your business. You're trying to stay in business. So you're appeasing the advertisers, right? So if your message hurts the advertiser's business, you're not going to say it. But if that's the truth and you said you're going to talk about the truth, well, then you're obligated to say it. So we're going to make sure that these networks, at least for a time, right, we're going to set them up so that they're grant funded, right? So they don't have to worry about advertisers. They can just create and develop a quality of programming that is in harmony with the long-term goals of the planet and the future that we want to create. And then in that, the other aspects like Tui's talking about with money, phasing out, and that's, I'm careful with that because there's two ways that that's talked about. But yes, that's certainly, we're trading goods, we're trading
Star Trek
favors.
economy, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's just like I said, it's just like what Tank is doing. What this Tank is saying. Projects that will return the sovereignty of the people, and that's simply the background that or the theme or the foundation of all the projects that they will be doing, to be able to create that environment where they can self-express and self-create. And if we focus on profit, it will be it's better we just go back to the old system. We can do it in such a way that the problem is that people are asking that question even though they fully understand what is actually happening and how they can change. So this change has to come from within, so that not even those questions are being asked, because it's just working on the mentality of the people that will be involved. And so it's like that. That's what sovereignty is. So if you're asking those kind of questions, then there's a lot of learning of sovereignty that you have to learn. It all comes down to those energy that is within you, and this is why we will do it here, and we'll be in a way that it will be an example. So if people will be asking to go and do profit, I'll say, okay, you can go ahead. You can run business. You can go on and enslave yourself and sell your energy within. And when you do that, it's no one else will be learning that lesson but you yourself. And so yeah, and I'm thankful for that question as well. and thank his put it in a very specific way. Very good question.
Yeah, and and it's see in in this transition, it's the most important. It's the most important moment in human history, at least in my understanding, however limited that is, right? At least in our lives, because
Indeed.
we get to set the foundation for what the world's going to become. Now, I am a fervent believer that we have to be able to integrate, the aspects of the things that are normal to people right now, and integrate this higher way of, or a more holistic way, or more natural way of who we really are, right? The essence and the origin of who we are, that Tui's talking about. And now, if you were to listen to me and Tui, we're not always saying the same. Well, actually, we are always saying the same thing, but because our experiences are different, it's necessary for the two of us to integrate those ideas, right? So, like for example, what's happening in Fiji won't be as much of an impact if there's not a network that's putting out the information, right? So we just have different roles. So I look at it like, well, I need to make sure that Tui's message isn't buried by someone, right? So that's why when I'm answering questions, I'm putting in those terms for people so that it's something that is practical enough that they can kind of connect, because what he's saying is true, and that's exactly what we want to do. So
Indeed.
all right, so let's go on to the next one here. Let's see.
Let me go and throw one out there that was asked a few times.
Go ahead.
Is Karen Hudis a part of this in any way? And what's her role?
She's the opposition. She has her. I mean, she works for the World Bank, right? Or she thinks she does. Um, she has no role in the trust. She has no role with us. She has no ability to move funds. She has no authority. But she, like many other people that have been set up and told that they were significant and special, in like manner, that's what she believes, that she is significant and special, and she's putting out that information according to what they're feeding her. But as far as having an actual role to play, as far as having any kind of authority, she does not. No.
Well, I think under the system that she was for 20 years part of the World Bank as a lead attorney, and then when she discovered the corruption, she was the whistleblower, right? And since the system says that the the board of governors, or all the ministers of finance from all these hundred and however how many countries that agreed to elect her to be their representative, at the World Bank, but they won't let her in the door. So it's if presuming that all of that is true, that she has a position, they're not recognizing her from the standpoint of saying that she has power. They're not going to let her through the door because the system is corrupt, right? And they don't. It was just part of the storyline, and that and they're not going to have her have her seat at the table. Now, I also know that she has got a lot of her information from Wolfgang
Strout.
here in the Philippines about what happened with the Marcos Gold and all this. And I've met with Wolfgang, several times and heard his stories and how he was working with Marcos, and he ran a Credit Suisse operation for Marcos out of New York for money changing, just doing trading. So, he has information, and he's operating from what he knows, and Karen is operating from what she knows.
Right.
That they're trying to do things. Maybe they have different motives, or not. I don't know what their motives are. I always found information just added a little to what I knew, but how reliable any of it is, I don't know. But anyway, as you said, she's not part of the Manna World Holding Trust. But she is, I think she's probably correct that those ministers around the world selected her because of her former status and try to empower her to get in the door, but she hasn't been able.
Yeah. So keep in mind, this entire world, everything about the world we know has been a massive military operation. Everything you know. So if you go back to what I said originally about how the military forces in the United States and around the world, in various other countries, have been deceived, it's because the information was compartmentalized, right? So you had you had an exhaustive knowledge of a specific part of the story, and in that, the top of that story for you ended with this individual, and because that's where it ended, with that individual, you think that entitles some authority or right, in general. I mean, this is what would happen. And I'm not being critical of these people either. You know, they were just deceived this way. And there's very possible that many of them have honorable intentions. But the reality is you can do away with all the different compartments if you just understand that they were all part of the same hive, right? And they were all serving, one source at the top. So it's better to have the perspective from the top down and then build from the bottom up. So that's what we're doing, right? So from the top down, I can tell you it doesn't matter because the World Bank, their real ledger that held their real assets, has been held in the trust always. And Ferdinand Marcos, there is bad checks written by him, certified bank checks all over the world because he was the Pindar, but that money would never come out. So he didn't, he was never really able to, operate the way he wanted to. That money would go out and it would be, it would never land. I mean, I have a $2 billion check for a hospital in China that it's a certified check from HSBC, and I was supposed to try to get HSBC to honor the check, and they couldn't honor the check. And what they would do is they would open the account, they could see the money was there, but it was just a mirror. So you can't move the mirrored accounts. So the money that was on the gray screens, and I talked to the individual who invented those and created them, and he explained to me exactly how it would work. The money would just hold there; you couldn't move it, so it wasn't accessible. So that's why they always want people to show proof of funds. So when you have a proof of funds, you basically are creating, you know, money out of nothing, right? You leave the money there and you use it as collateral, and then you create a fake trade platform that
And then you have to
go
have the banks that go along with it because they're going to get paid out of it. Right. Yeah.
right.
It's there, but you can only like look at it. You can't move it, touch it. So but if you don't get the cooperation of the people in the bank, and even if you do get the cooperation of the people in the bank, they may end up stealing it from you. So you have to have more power, behind you, other than you just saying you're going to. Went around this, yeah, many times. So it's definitely a system. So all right, so and they're in their compartments, and maybe it's also part of the new world here. This we have to not have all these compartments, segregating all the information. We need to have everyone be able to talk to each other, and reveal the information about all the technologies, all the stuff that happened behind the scenes, and so that it's not, criminal for them to do so. That might be part of a new world that we need to move towards. So, because I know that people are in compartments, they only know what is in their compartment. And even if they're peering into the next compartment around them, they're still just in the several compartments that they're kind of delving into. So,
Yep.
all right. So what's the next question?
Hold 1 second. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Okay. What's the Manna World Holding Trust? That's a kind of a rookie question, I guess. So the Manna World Holding Trust is the central bank of all central banks. It is where the entire back ledger system and all of the assets of the world have been gathered and placed and registered for ownership. It is it's what the Hammer project is based on, or Project Hammer that George Bush created. Essentially, what it was designed to do was to gather the assets of the planet to take ownership of everything on the planet. And that's why people don't own property. They don't own anything because everything is registered to the trust and all they have is use of it. That's why a mortgage, or a even a deed to a house for the most part. It's a rental agreement, right? It's not a real thing. So this is also known as the asset redemption program. So what would happen is that someone would go out and they would take ownership of a piece of land or a mine or a allocation of gold. They would register that, creating a registration number into the asset redemption program, and the asset redemption program would in turn allocate a certain dollar amount to be distributed to that individual. And then you would have the money because you've now turned over your ownership of that asset to the trust, right? I mean, Kim calls it the Manna World Holding Trust, but it's not really a trust. It's really a central bank, and this central bank has been the source of funding for um, every war, uh, all the central banks, all the governments, it's also been the hiding place where the elite trust system would hide their money for for thousands of years. It's been that way. And in 2012, excuse me, it's registered in every single intelligence agency, every single treasury, every government around the world as the unknown country. And that's what it's always been, but it's also been known as the Alpha Omega Trust, the White Spirit Boy Trust, the Dragon Family Trust. These are all different names for the same thing. In 2012, the contracts to allow them to take the assets of the planet, and all of that was agreed to by different groups of human beings on the planet. And we could talk about how we've been tricked many times into doing that. And in 2012, the long-term infinity contracts expired, and they were given a 5-year extension to return the assets from the trust to the people. And they obviously did not do that, or to implement their one world government, right? To bring everybody under one umbrella of a government. And in 2017, all of those contracts were expired, December 23rd, 2017. And once those contracts expired, well, actually in 2012, it was set up so the human being, which is a genetic anomaly that occurs about every 2,000 years, and the human being with the most human DNA on the planet was given the authority to access the trust, and for the first time ever, a human being was in control of the trust. And they trained Kim on how to use the system, and in that process, they tried to steal the money from her and try to convince her that she was not the one in control of it. And she caught on to it, and she realized what they were doing, and she realized what their plans were just from the various meetings she sat in. And they promised her that they had turned over a new leaf, and she tried to work with them for a little while, and they wouldn't. They never honored their agreements or their deals. And essentially, Kim has now successfully taken the trust and redirected it so that, to quote Kim, what she said was, she's the one, because she was given this option. She was asked this because they would constantly do things to try to portray human beings as savages who would kill themselves. It was for this hierarchy at the top, and that's why they used war as a social control mechanism for thousands of years with us, and they forced us into terrible situations over and over again, and forced us to fight and kill each other. They drugged us, and then we got to be so large as a population that they decided that to create a peaceful environment. In their version of a peaceful environment, that included us being slaves, that included genocide, massive amounts of depopulation of the planet, introducing a foreign enemy that would be foreign to everybody on the planet, so that we would all unite under one world order where there was an elite group at the top, and all of us would basically be slaves underneath them, and we'd be grateful to be alive because so many people would have ended up dying. And they would reduce the population by about 90%. And in so doing, they thought that they would be in control, but the hierarchy at the top actually would have wiped them out as well. So everyone would have been killed. Was the plan? That was the game plan, to take the assets and utilize them in a different way. So the Manna World Holding Trust, as run by Kimberly Ann Gogan, who is 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrian Eve. This has been proved time and time again and recognized by church and state that she is the sole authority and sole sovereign monarch of the planet. She is the only one, and it's always been that way. There's always been a monarchy on the planet. It's been a military dictatorship for thousands of years, and she switched that from a military dictatorship, and she has been focused on returning the sovereignty, and the integrity and the wealth and the assets of the planet, and really the care and responsibility of the planet back to the people and to the actual governments, not the corporations, but the actual governments that draw their power from the people. So in every aspect, the Manna World Holding Trust is dedicated to returning the assets of the planet to the people. And there's a deeper level of that too that Tui talks about with the actual quantum system and the this being a natural intelligence that is innate within all of us and in every aspect of life of the planet. And this system requires a certain skill set and ability to access and utilize in the best manner for the people. So that answers the question, you think, Dan?
I think so.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. Next question.
How about this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about they said that there's the aircraft carriers have moved out to sea. Do you know what that's all about?
Nope. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
I can think of 1,000. I can think of 1,000 different things going on. I mean, there's a constant barrage of things taking place at all times on the planet. I mean, all the time. You know, and there is certainly an expectation, I'm certain, of a retaliation. You know, we talked about tonight that the U.S. military, which, and I'm sure that extends to many other militaries and government militaries, are all waking up. But keep in mind that Eric Prince and the Blackwater private mercenary military, that their military is just as big as the United States. I mean, that's how many people are actually in that, right? And those in general, a lot of those guys, if any of those guys are listening, they are well-trained soldiers who became a soldier to do something honorable and good. And if they find themselves working that way to try to make a living, a lot of them would do jobs, right, contract jobs, and they would take their money and turn it back over to the person who hired them for the contract, and they would put it on the back ledger, which was the trust. And all of that was shut off from the world in 2007 when all the assets on the planet were registered to the trust. And that included their accounts. Now, their names aren't even on the accounts. It's just an account number. And they needed to know the account number just to access it. And none of their employers, right? None of the Chinese elders or, the Bushes, the Clintons, all these various factions of elite, criminal cartels, these organized crime families have not been able to access the trust since 2007 at all. Not at all. So because of that, all the gentlemen there who are working for Blackwater, if you have contracts that you need to be paid for, those contracts are on the back ledger. And Kim has approached many of you on several different occasions, more than willing, if you would defect to the good guys and protect us instead of this foreign entity that's in our country, that we will gladly honor those contractual agreements based on some kind of mission statement and project that you will utilize those funds for. That was the.
It'd be good if they want to defect and come over to the side of humanity. Maybe they can just say so in the super chat. Volunteer that say, I'm ready to switch.
Well, I know one time we had a gentleman who was actively working with the bonds, right? And when I say actively working with the bonds, like the Chinese war bonds and things, basically what they have done for 20 years is give people busy work. Oh, you need to file this paperwork, you need to do that, we need to take it this way, and they would just give people all this nonsensical busy work. Meanwhile, while that was happening, while everybody was going back and forth with the paper of the bonds, they had already registered the asset from the bond, and they'd already taken the cash out. So the bonds were just paper. So all those bonds, all the work that's been done around that has been an absolute waste. It has already been redeemed, and you will not get paid for them. Which, by the way, I don't mean to say that so harshly. That's the truth, though. They cash those bonds in.
I answered someone's question about the same thing in the emails in a very, because they're like, well, that's not the way I know it. They were telling me, I go, well, yeah, I understand, but take it from me. I spent 2 years in China, 20 trips, trying to basically line up stuff. I was under a mandate from the Rodriguez Trust, that is the counterbalance to all of the debt in the world, for this purpose, using the Philippine Islands themselves and all of the in-ground and buried assets, to be that counterweight. So yeah, I'm all in, right? I was there, 10 mountain warehouses in China. You think it's not sad for me to think that all that was for naught? But I'd rather have it all go away, than have it destroy 90% of the population of the planet, which I actually think is just the first step. And then it's the last 10%. So yeah, it's hard for people that have been so focused on everything that they've learned. I learned a lot, but it goes back to me also when I first got into this. My friend who ended up dying for because he got back involved with these historical bonds. He had said in the very beginning when I first brought it up for the Super Pacellis in 2014, he said everything's already been redeemed. And I remember, that was one of the things and he was one of the guys involved in it heavily, and was moved up, and he had his own fortunes, and he was very well. He was unpersoned. They removed his Social Security. They removed all his money, and he barely was kept alive, and he was warned to stay out of it. I think it's probably because he got back into it just to realize, to say, hey, it was already redeemed. If that information literally got out, wouldn't that destroy the GCR?
Well, it would also destroy a very profitable business for them, right? Reselling bonds that are useless.
Yeah, reselling. That's what I said in my email back to her when she was. I said, listen, they made a business out of reselling the paper, right? And they used it to squeeze money out of people. You had assets you had to, turn. You sold your property to get a hold of these bonds. You did all sorts of things to get the cash, so that you could turn it over to them, so that you could get these pieces of paper, because you were going to be super wealthy with just one little piece. So, but did you need just one little piece? No, you wanted, all that you can get out of greed. So this wrung out the last drips out of the world, right? They just kept squeezing those last drips out.
Very true.
It's only me thinking back about that was like the key statement that I just never. I just always put it out of my mind. Really, it's like everything was already redeemed. Well, then why would all this be going on, right? Well, that's the big lie, right? The
That is the big lie. Yeah.
They had already redeemed it. Everything was already. What was it? 2008. That everything was already put into the trust, all the assets pledged.
Well, and really, the big lie is the reality is the big lie is that they were going to allow us to be prosperous. Right? That's the big lie. It doesn't matter what the manifestation is. And you can see this. I mean, if you've ever talked to anyone who's had like real success in their life at some point, and they weren't part of the order, you'll notice they always also have with that coupled a very tragic story of how they lost it all, right? Because they're not part of the order. So because they're not part of the order of the deep state, because they're not in that club, they weren't allowed to stay wealthy, right? Because so what would happen, I use this example. There's a gentleman, and there's some others who actually worked with him in my the Creators Network, who he was the one who was the very first one to ever sell oil futures, right? So they were mining oil someplace, I think it was in California or something like that, and they were selling oil futures. It was genius, right? He raised like $55 million, and he's selling oil futures, and it's and they're honoring what they said they do, right? Because in and of itself, it wasn't a bad idea. Matter of fact, it was a great idea. So lo and behold, he's doing this and making money and whatever, and the IRS came in. Now the IRS is a private organization. They don't have the right to do this, but because they are owned by the Rothschilds, they came in, they seized all the property, all the places where all the mines were, right? basically ran him out of business and bankrupted him until he was just a shell of a human being before he died. And that's how it was described to me. Not that I knew him personally. And took all that. Then they proceeded to mine all of the oil out of the mines. And now, like 30 years later, they're offering to the original owners, right? This group of investors who owned these oil fields, they're trying to sell it back to them. Well, I mean, just think of how diabolically hateful that is. They just seized the asset, then they used it, they mined all the assets out of it. Now they're selling it back to you after this. So in other words, my point is that's their MO. That's what they do all the time. They take the value of something. They're parasites because they can't create their own energy. They use it, and then they just turn around and they try to give it. They sell it back to us. They sell us back the scraps from their table is basically what they do, right? And for the most part, most normal human beings would be more than happy, with a comfortable home and a nice car and be able to travel when they want. I mean, we don't even want so much as far as stuff goes. That's a myth that's perpetuated on us, right? It's constantly pressed on us in the media of stuff we got to have, and they sell us low quality goods, and so that they'll fall apart, and then we'll buy more goods, and then they call us consumers, right? And at the highest levels with Kim, they would call us eaters, right? We're just a bunch of eaters. We'll just keep eating ourselves into obesity and diabetic comas, right? We'll keep consuming, and we'll consume this low quality, good, and they'll fatten us up like pigs, and we'll be slothful and lazy and dumbed down, and then they can do whatever they want. And that is, I mean, that's the reality of what they were pressing to do. So knowing is, half the battle, right?
Right.
Like GI Joe said. So now that it's the question of what do you do with that information, right? There has to be an option. Now, many of us, many unfortunate people knew this for a long time, and they've been suffering through this for a long time, right? And it's miserable. And right now is the first time in history that, in our lifetime, where we know this and we finally have power to do something about it, right? We can finally, we can create our own way of thriving, not just surviving, but thriving in this planet and really be a full or more complete expression of the person that we actually are, or the spirit or the soul that we actually are. And that's what's on the table. So everything we build from here is going to be built from the foundation of this, spiritual reality of the strength and beauty and love and just the amazing universe that every human being has inside them if they just open it up. So that's the opportunity we have, and we want to do that as much as possible, because in this world that we create, your success doesn't take away from my success. Your success is just gives me a broader perspective and greater appreciation for the diversity and possibilities that exist when I expand my energetic field to go beyond the limits that I thought I had and allow it to grow out, so it has affected you, and now you do the same and you do it better, right? And I'm for everybody doing it better. I realize everything I do, there's somebody who can do everything I do better. And that's okay. I feel like my job is to help them do that. And it doesn't take away from me at all. And that's it. That's the difference between moving to an environment like that we are creating. Now, the next question in this world, I don't even know what the question was that we got off that way, is all right. So
Let's do a rapid fire. We're going to be like 5 hours. And
okay, so here I'll hit through these quick. So okay, what about 5G? 5G, I know probably you can send that question to Thomas. He's going to have a better answer, and his show's on.
Let me go for that one.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So they said the same thing about 3G. So they said same thing about cell phones from the very beginning. So there's always fear mongering, always talking bad about this or that or the other thing. So is there potential danger for microwaves and that? Yeah, can it actually control your mind? I don't really think that is anything different than what they can do from satellites or pumping stuff in from the TVs. Can it affect your reproductive system? I wouldn't want to stand in front of the antennas that are the main antennas for this, and just fasten. But maybe you shouldn't be carrying your cell phone in your pocket, right? It's 2 inches away. So there are always issues. I wouldn't say that 5G in general is going to be any different in the same precautions you should make about any of these technologies. So should we have 5G? Yes. But should it be the Chinese 5G network? No. Is there definitely buying equipment built into it? Yes. I've got this, and it's Huey phone, right? Wowie, everyone says. Yeah, but it's a spy device, right? Just like this Samsung. It's just different factions of who's putting in the back doors into these technologies. So my philosophy in technology has been refined for a long time. I've dealt with the people who are all about open source. I am not a fan of open source. I understand the dream, and I appreciate that, but it doesn't work for providing wealth to people. It makes people poor. Open architecture and closed source. So not open source, but closed source, but open architecture is the way to build for everyone. If you have open architecture, closed source means that all the tools and everything is revealed. It's the architecture. There's nothing hidden. If there is something in particular that's hidden, like the keys to access access things or security, of course, that's not what I'm talking about. But all the tools to make things work in this structure are there. Every bolt, every beam, every window, every door of the structure. Everything is available, so everyone knows what's there. And then you build. You close the source of what you build so that you can then use it for the people that are coming in and using it, and they're not stealing it away for their own purposes. You can then contain. So whatever is unique to what you built, it's yours. If you want to then open source that, that's okay. That's up to you. That's no problem when you want to do it. But if you don't have a way for people to build up their wealth, someone else will come around and continue to steal what they have. So yeah, it's in this today's day. Hopefully, we can evolve past that, and there is ways in which we can build an abundance-based systems that are open architecture and closed source. So, anyway, there's my little bit on 5G. I don't want to keep going.
Well, and also, I mean, I'll just take it a little bit even more so, expand on that. We're raising the, we see this in the Schumann resonance, right? The Schumann resonance that is the measurable etheric energy field around the planet, right? And we can see how that is raising. And in reality, as we raise our frequency, these things will have less and less of an effect on us regardless. We will have an innate biological protection against these things. And what the one way to, really, stop that from happening is to live in fear, right? So we're not going to waste any time living in fear of these things, right? They have no power. So, in this one question, this individual said, what about Agenda 21? Well, I just addressed Agenda 21. They had a depopulation agenda. They still have a depopulation agenda. They have been completely neutered. They have no power to execute their depopulation agenda. So much so that they've actually worked with the team that took their own biological weapons that they created to wipe out humanity, and they turned those so that those now specifically target their bloodline DNA. Right. So you have right, their bloodline. So after generations and generations and thousands of years of inbreeding, it's actually backfired on them, so that they want to wipe out humanity. They create a virus, to do it, and it will actually turn back on them. So that's off the table. So they can't. That's one part of Agenda 21. The other part of the Agenda 21 is uh, this concept of making the environment an enemy, right? So they came up with global warming, and Dan talked about this, how the data went in from the scientists, to assess the environment, and then when it came back out, it was totally different data, and that's what they based the theory of global warming on. And now you have 31,000 scientists worldwide that are all standing up and saying this is not true. We're actually going into a solar minimum where it's going to be more like winters are going to be colder and brutal, and summers will just be normal. But
and we're all doomed.
yeah, and we're not all doomed. It's just a normal cycle of the planet, So you have that happening, and then so these are all parts of what they try to do. Now that was Agenda 21. Now Agenda 21 has been changed to Agenda 2030, right? And in this, they're going to abolish poverty, and what they mean is they're going to abolish the impoverished, right? They're going to take the people and they want to, delete us. That's never going to happen. And the evidence of that is, when we started this call, the whole point was these knuckleheads in all the governments, they still didn't realize the global currency reset it was the catalyst to all these other things. Crash the economy, release diseases, exacerbate the environmental concerns, right? Because you got Cortez out there. If we don't do something quick, we're all going to be dead in 12 years. Well, what she doesn't realize is she's right. We would all be dead in 12 years, but it wouldn't be because of the environment, because of the massive genocide and fear that they create. So if you want to counteract any one of these things, be fearless. Be fearless. There's nothing to be afraid of. You are a giant. You can do anything. You can control things. Man, Dan and I were talking the other day on a call, and I swear to God on my life, this happened. I swear to God. I can't explain it exactly, but I have an idea. This happened. Dan calls me after the call and tells me that one of his business associates was in concern for their life because of some message they received, and and so there was concern. So Dan was kind of like, do we have something in place for security for people that we work with, right? And that was all because of their association with Dan and with me and with what we've been talking about. Now, as Dan says that, right now, as he's calling about that concern, I am out on in the harbor at this parking lot where I go. There's a beautiful park there, and it's right by the water, and that's where I take a lot of my calls. And there's no one there. The park's closed. And all of a sudden, there's this white car that comes screaming down in this parking lot at me. And all of a sudden, it got about 100 feet away from me. And with no brakes, there was no screeching of the brakes, nothing. All of a sudden, the car just arced up. Like the front went down and the back went up. And it arced up. And then it backed up and it tried to come forward again. It couldn't. It got to this field and it was impenetrable. It couldn't get through the field. And so I backed up, and then eventually I honked his horn. Now, there was no one else there but me. What are you honking at? What is happening right now to this car? And I'm watching the car fumble all over the place, right? Like, what is going on? Then the guy turned around, and when he started to drive away, the car was fine again. So, or whoever, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but he drove away. So I turned around. I followed him. Now, the whole time I'm on the phone with Dan, the whole time. As he leaves the park, he pulls down this road, and I went just close enough. And when I got a little bit closer, all of a sudden his car got pulled over on the road again. And he had to pull off the side of the road. It was like his car stopped working and ripped him over to the side of the road. And then I just drove by, and then he was able to go again. So somehow, some way, it would appear like something to do with me, like stopped his car. Now, right after that, I get a call from somebody, an intuitive friend of mine, who has told me things well in advance many times, and very accurate. And she told me that there was multiple timelines taking place right now. And she said one of them, she saw somebody walk up to she said I was sitting in my car. Somebody walked up to my car and shot me in the face. Now, she was having that experience while this was taking place. Now, that seems like absolutely insane. That's fine, and you can take it or leave it. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just telling you that's what happened. Those are facts. Now, in my opinion, as soon as Dan started talking, my immediate thought was like, we're stronger than that. We can't be touched by them. They can't even hardly see us. We're vibrating at a frequency that's just too fast.
Where'd he
And
go? He was just around the corner.
Indeed.
right. So the way I see it is the best place to be with all of this is you recognize it's your awareness of your power. Just being aware of it is where all your power exists. Just knowing that you are an energetic being, you're a spiritual being, and that your energy, that it grows and perpetuates, and love is 1,000 times stronger than fear any day of the week. And it's effortless, and it rejuvenates you, and it rejuvenates others. Joy. I mean, you see somebody walking around who's happy. You never see somebody who's walking around happy looking like Eeyore, right? Nobody walking around, happy is like, yeah, I'm happy. Like, no, they're happy, and it's contagious. They walk in the room, the whole place lights up. You know, when you make decisions out of fear, your world becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And what happens
Indeed.
is you reduce your own energetic field, and you reduce your own power, and you enslave yourself.
Indeed.
So yeah. So you want to add to it, Tui?
No, you've said that perfectly. Yeah.
I
The
told you. I told you we were in line.
yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. All right. So all this other these other questions that are here. Let's see what it says. I just want to make sure I hit all of them. Oh, cancer. We have the cure for cancer. Matter of fact, we have several cures for cancer. And in the United States, it is illegal to cure cancer. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce these treatments separate from the FDA, because the FDA has no regulatory authority over the government or the United States. They had a corporate control contract agreement, and that is no longer in effect. We don't need to talk about curing it. What we will do is we will just take the body and we will return it to optimal performance by utilizing various treatments that are all legal treatments. But the one place where they would try to catch us up is to say that we cure cancer. But I'm telling you that in this particular conversation, there's several easy cures for cancer. So much so that it's easier to cure cancer than it is the common cold. And there's also a cure for AIDS. We have a project that has 4,800 successful studies, with curing AIDS. And if you were watching, what's his name? He's a former rapper. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he did a documentary on another individual who brought 77 people and proved it in a court of law that he had cured AIDS. Right. So things like that. As far as free energy goes, we have multiple different uh, free energy generators, various techniques, advancements on Tesla's technology. And this is just in my immediate group, right? That we have this technology that exists, that we will bring those things to market, and we will bring them out. The reason why no one could do it in the past is because they would get killed, or they would also they didn't have the finances to survive the storm and the barrage of nonsense, and they measured everything in money. So they were willing to compromise our health, our wellness, and the greater good of all humanity to make more money. So we will never do that. That'll never happen. We will bring this out, and they don't have the money to stop us. They won't be able to stop us. They won't be able to protect themselves better than we will. They won't be able to stop our industries because we'll build everything from the ground up. So the answer is the same. I've already given you the recipe. Now you just have to go and apply it. And also, what was the other one you said here? I'll make sure I hit all these questions. GMOs. This is something that I'm actively working already on. That the things that are obvious negligence on the part of the government, the regulatory authorities, the various private institutions like the FDA, all of these different groups that have imposed their will, we have to dethrone them. We have to make sure it's clear that these are not absolute. Part of that was the New Green Deal. You'll notice that the New Green Deal did not come to bear, right? They immediately knocked it out of the Senate. I mean, it didn't get a single vote, not a single vote, right? And with that in mind, that is because what that would have done is that would have forced us all to consume more, GMOs, as well as controlled our power grid. And when can we hear from Thomas? Is the next question. Thomas Williams has the Truth, Honor, and Integrity show. It is on Thursday night. I'm not sure. I think it starts at 7 Eastern Standard Time. It could be 8, but I'm not exactly sure. And that comes on the Spreaker network. You can go to Spreaker and you can hear Thomas talk. And Thomas is there. He lives right in the same. He moved up there to be next to Kim to work with her, and he always has amazing, incredible detailed reports about stuff. So definitely, I actually said to Dan that we should probably wait until Thomas's show is over on Thursday, just so that we can all benefit from what he has to say, because it's valuable information for all of us.
You want to delay tomorrow? No, that's 2 days from now.
Yeah, Thursday night, right?
Thursday night. Okay, we can delay that by how long? What is he's?
I mean, we just have a shorter show. I mean, like I think he gets done at about 10 o'clock, so we come on at 10.
Okay, so instead of 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it would be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Next one. Why is Trump wanting the Fed to lower rates when he knows they are dead? Trump is playing the game, right? He knows what's going on. One of the other questions is, what is Trump's take on the Manna World Holding Trust? President Trump has been the biggest advocate in the government for the Manna World Holding Trust. He has communicated. Kim communicates with people in his cabinet, and she communicates with him directly on his terminal. And much of the bravado and courageous acts that you see President Trump portray is because he knows that he's been backed by the Manna World Holding Trust, and because Kim has supported him to help him strategize and help him be successful in all these things he's doing. Matter of fact, you remember in the first year of his presidency, he talked about a major trust, a major humanitarian trust that was going to come in to fund the wall. That trust was Manna World Holding Trust, and she did in fact do that.
Do you have like a clip of that or a video link where he's talking about that? That would be good to be able to.
I'll find it. I don't have it on me at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Next one is the money for the projects on loan from the trust? No, it is grant money. So grant money is given to you for a specific purpose that you are looking to accomplish. Generally, what has happened with grant funding is there's $500 billion every single year in the United States of grant funding that goes unrewarded. The way that they do that is they create these ridiculous grants that are so specific and so, you have to meet all these requirements that very, very few people actually get a grant. And so that's been the method. Now, if they just made sure that grant money went out into the economy, for every dollar that is spent in grant money, it generally brings back $15, right, into the economy. So that would have answered just by putting that money out, that would have completely renovated, the way that we look at the economy, because the economy, if you wouldn't be looking for quantitative easing, you'd say, hey, put out some grant money, and it would completely change it. So this money for these now, the reason why they did that is because they wanted to control everything. Because with grant money, when you put grant money out, once it really is released from the grantor cannot tell you what to do with it. So if your goal is to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and we don't agree with the way that you're going to accomplish that, right? You still have the grant money. We can't really interfere. Now, this is why I'm doing all I can to educate people up front to make sure people understand why we want to do business this way. It's the reason why I want everyone to come into the Guardian of Camelot Association, so that you have the sources and you know where to go and who to get help from. And that doesn't mean that we would control it. You can bring in other people, and all types of experts from all over the world are welcome to come in. But the idea is to create a body of human beings that are united around the cause of changing the world together with other human beings, and they're willing to stand up and fight for, that, not fight, but stand up and create a better world together with other humans who have different ideas and different viewpoints and, different skin color and different religions and all types of different values. And all that's okay. We can build a world that's very diverse and, and has all these amazing things to it. But what we have to agree on the very core components of life, and that's what we want to bring together with everybody, and then let
Indeed.
everybody go be free. Yeah, and that's oh, Nipsey Hussle used to be Nipsey Russell, but that's the one who did the and it's Dr. Sebi who cured AIDS, by the way. And
I thought that was a comedian.
Nipsey Russell, I
Nipsey
think
Russell? That sounds
yeah,
like
maybe he is a comedian. Yeah, maybe you're right. I thought he was a rapper back in the day, but maybe I'm wrong.
yeah. Well, I think he was back like Carol Burnett time. Nipsey Russell. Yeah, Hollywood Squares. I think he was one of the guys always on Hollywood Square.
Oh, hey, let me answer this question. This is important. What about, it says, what about all the countless numbers of folks who don't have the registration fee for projects? There is no registration fee for projects. You do not have to register. You don't have to pay any money up front to submit for a project. That you do not have to do that. That is a misconception. We set up the Guardian of Camelot to bring people who were in a position, who were prepared to work in the project planning network, and we wanted to make sure we did background checks on them. We want to make sure everybody, had a trust set up. So we hired Yokoyama Legal. They have done the background checks for us and set up the trust for us. So that was for them, but that's not required. You can submit your project directly to Yokoyama Legal at createchange.today. That's YO. You know what? I'll just send you. I'll post a link. You can go to speakproject.net and I'll put a link out
It's
there.
in the description down below. The information.
Oh, okay. There you go.
It's posted there, and on every video that we do, it's all the information on how to contact us is down below.
Right. So if you have a project, if you have an idea, whatever it is, the reality is I set up the project planning network, the creators network, because I want everyone to know what the other options are, right? Like people come in and they have one idea about how they want to do a project, and when they come into the planning network, they start talking to other people with similar projects, and when they're together, they realize, oh, well, what you're doing actually would work better, and vice versa, right? They have different aspects that they can grow, and then they can create the best project, and right, and in that they can also they have each other to talk to about what permits did you need, and you know you know how are you doing this, and what are you doing first, and who are you using for supplies. And if they need a supplier, we'll go out and we'll find that supplier. We'll either hire them and bring them into the network, or we'll buy the mine from them, or whatever it is. And we have program directors and project directors who are in there, and they're helping and they're working with people, and they're amazing. So that being said, that's why I have that set up, right? But that is not the policy. If you have a project, you can submit the project directly to us, and you can definitely get funded. Just send in your project. You can go to gocamelot.com, and it actually explains how you can do that. It's not even hard, so you can easily do that. And my email is Stefan Rao at createchange.today. You can always email it to me, and I will make sure that the right people get it, and we'll consider everybody's project equally. Obviously, when it's presented in a fashion that is viable already, it's an easy sell, because we can see, oh, you're already ready. But we'll bring a lot of people. Everyone will bring into this kind of creators network, especially if they have a great idea already, so that everyone can benefit from that idea. And then that mentality and that attitude perpetuates, and we create a global community that's united in making the world the place we all want to live in. And that's it. There's all the questions.
Oh, really? I've got more.
Oh, go for it, man. Sorry.
We are on the 3-hour mark here, so there's a lot of questions. So it's interesting. I wonder if we're seeing different things in the chat. Maybe another one of those things. They're controlling the information.
I can't see the chat, by the way.
Oh,
Just one of my
I got it.
Lane Keller she texted it to me. My people are on it, man. They're always researching. They send me everything I need on the call to make sure
All
we
right,
have what we need.
all right, we got it. All right, so no problem then. But there are way too many questions, I think, for us to get into all of them, especially once we're already here at the 3 hour mark, and we should shut it down. We can do it again tomorrow, and we have even better questions from the standpoint of if there is now flow coming into individual accounts. We'll see. So
and you know what? And we could, if there's a lot of questions, like we can base the whole show tomorrow night on those questions. Like we'll look at them and we'll make sure to come in with questions that are with good answers that'll help everybody, that are practical.
They're there.
Like I said. Yep.
Sounds good.
There is one question. Why don't we say this? One question I just it's kind of a favorite question of mine and yours. Is Q real?
Is Q real? Well, in the very natural sense, yes, Q is definitely real, right? It's an existing letter, it's an existing movement, right? There's also my belief, my theory on it is that Q is the quantum system, and there's an algorithm that it's using, and it examined it's a mapping system, right? So the mapping system this is just my opinion, by the way. This is my conspiracy theory. Not even conspiracy. This is my heroic theory that it was used as a movement to wake people up, and it examined exactly the patterns and trends of things people would stay interested in. That's why you have silly aspects that really have no value, like is JFK alive, which doesn't affect anyone at all.
That wasn't
matter.
Q.
Wasn't Q? I thought that was Q. Yeah, Q mentioned it. Sure.
Part of the Q phenomena, but Q never said that JFK was alive and never insinuated the other group. That is more like something that was created to kind of, discredit Q. It was a psyop.
Okay. Well,
you fell for
it. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's a lot of psyop attached to Q, and there's a lot to it. Yeah. And some of that is intentional, right? Which again, that would speak to the quantum system planting information out there for the bad guys to be misled. So yeah, Q is definitely real. It? And there's definitely people working in Trump's cabinet that are good guys. But you know what? That first picture from Air Force One could only have been taken from one of the undercarriage cameras. There's no way he could have got that picture. It was a direct shot directly below the earth, beneath. It wasn't through a window or anything. It was directly below the earth. The only way to do that is if you had access to the system itself. Yeah. So that's just me though. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and so on my side, I'm very supportive of the Q phenomena and the use of it as a way to create a new channel of information that is military directed as part of the Great Awakening, as part of the plan, dark to light. Where we go, we go. Where we go, one, we go all. All of this is meant to wake up people using puzzles that are very, 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 very deep puzzles that are using numerology, gematria, all the way to just basic timestamps to show that the proof is there. But the puzzles are very elaborate and need constant revision of things, but they all prove up that there is a group of people, it's supposed to be 10 individuals, I believe 7 of which are military, that are Q. And when it says Q plus, that is actually Trump. And so there's everything, any posts that come in as Q plus is actually Trump making that post. And the linkage of the 8chan channel for this information to the Trump's tweets are used as a way of confirming the direction of information and that the proof that it is coming from the White House, from Trump, and from the team. Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
All right. So on that, I guess is a good place for us to say goodbye. We'll be back.
Indeed.
More fantastic news, I'm sure.
I'm sure too. All right.
Just want to
Cool,
say,
gang.
yes, good love and blessing from Fiji. All of you guys on the chat room, watching live, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today at this moment. Yes, you guys, do take care of yourselves, and we look forward to tomorrow's show and the more good news and the more discussion that we're gonna start this new future together. That that we're all here involved in. Thank you so much.
Indeed and in will. We'll be back tomorrow.
Cool. All right, gentlemen. Have a
Peace.
great night, everybody. Peace out from New York.
Be sure to share the link,
Peace.
likes, thumbs ups.